What's going on, Fortnite fam? Surprise! Here we are for the second chance qualifier. That's right, second chance. More players are going to be able to make their way to the summit in Dusseldorf just a month away. It's crazy to think about. And here we are. If you don't believe in second chances, maybe you should. Why don't we get your analyst in here? It's Kelly Link. It's Vivid. Guys, here we are for the second chance. For players that thought it was over, what's up? They've been given a second chance to fight for a spot at the summit. What a time to be alive.
You know, Zeke, I've always believed in second chances, but do I believe in second chances? Well, Epic is going to be figuring that out today. Which 7 teams are going to be joining the 50 that have already gone on to Dusseldorf, plus the few that have gone on through today? Vivid, there's so many questions that are going to be answered. I am excited to figure those out.
Yeah, guys, I'll be honest. Listen, over the course of watching the Heats, watching Grand Finals, I just didn't get enough Zeke Freak. So I made a balls call, made sure we kind of go ahead and get this broadcast going today. And I'm excited to see 7 teams on the region kind of clutch up and make it to land.
That's right, man. In case, Fortnite fam, you haven't seen the news, we've made some updates to the summit. So let's take a look. We've got a little graphic lined up for you. So first, we've made it a 3-day event. So now we will also have a Friday. Guys, there's going to be an upper bracket. There's going to be a lower bracket. If you're someone who already bought a 2-day ticket, don't even worry about it. Top left up there, it'll be converted to a 3-day ticket free of charge. I mean, Kelly Link, there's also $300,000 added to the original prize pool.
Oh my gosh. Also, to see that grand finals have been changed from 6 games to 8 games. So we're going to get even more exclusive finals action on Sunday. Zeke, I can't wait. I'm so excited to watch it all.
Super excited. Cannot wait for the summit. Big changes kind of coming. Of course, Zeke, we have this little interesting opportunity here today, the second chance qualifier. We, of course, did just watch those grand finals over the course of the weekend, but we already have 100 players that are qualified to the summit. And here are going to be all of those teams for anybody who needs a little bit of a reminder. Crazy stuff over on NA Central. We know, of course, Curve and Veno. Incredible performance there. We had some more qualifiers, Peterbot and Pollo, Visual Braze, all names that we are very familiar with. Now, of course, these guys are like some of the best teams on NA Central, the region, which leaves us with the fact that they are already qualified for the summit, which means that they do not need to play today. So it kind of creates this interesting dynamic where 13 of the best teams on the region are already qualified and they're not going to be playing today. So the players that are going to be playing today have this interesting little opportunity to go ahead and clutch up while it's kind of not facing some of those top teams.
But let's talk about that. Let's maybe break that down a little bit more, Viv, because you've got some stats for us lined up. So if we had to kind of talk about some of the stats for today, what are some of the things you're excited about seeing as we bring some of these up? Because, man, Kelly, Viv, there's some cool stats here for sure.
Ooh, of course, looking at the FNCS Finals appearances, having 320 under the 100 players that we already have. But I'm actually going to take a quick look at the bottom of this list right here, because players with 0 FNCS Finals, 31. But players with 0 LAN Finals is 93. So the consideration that we might have a player or a team that has not even been in an FNCS Grand Finals go to a LAN is pretty wild.
Those finals appearances actually kind of match up with the numbers that we were seeing in Heat. So the competition for this second chance qualifier is still going to be pretty fierce. Not to mention there's 38 Major 1 grand finalists here. Teams or players that kind of already had an opportunity to qualify to the summit. And we know over the course of the weekend, you needed to get top 13 to qualify to the LAN. But today it's going to be a little bit harder because you're going to have to get top 7. So are those returning players, are they going to be able to clutch up today? It'll be interesting to see.
But Viv, how many points would you imagine we would need to clutch up to be in that top 7? Break it down with more stats.
The numbers, man. There's so many numbers. I kind of wanted to get a little bit of a reference point to see what we can kind of expect. So I went ahead, I took a look at grand finals that just happened this weekend, which had the exact same format with the placement and the eliminations. So if you take a look at it, the first row there will be NAC top 7 from just day 1 points. So that was going to be 262. If you go down a couple of lines, it'll be NAC top 7 from just the points that teams were able to secure on day number 2, right? That was going to be the top 7 threshold. As you can see, 262 to 294. Maybe we can kind of guess that it's going to be around like 280. And we were kind of seeing a similar thing over on EU when we took a look at the grand finals points over there as well. And then I also wanted to take a look at, Kelly, the biggest game that we kind of saw over the course of the weekend, which was 105 points, just to kind of give us a little bit of a reference point to what we can maybe expect. Maybe teams are able to accomplish in like a last game needed scenario.
You know, if we're talking about expectations and using EU as a reflection, I would love to see a team win 3 victory royales in this game or in this lobby, because Akira and Kurama were able to do that. So one team's got to be able to do that for North American Central, right, Zeke?
Gotta make it like 4, right, Kelly? So that's the only way that we could do this. Well, you know what, guys? As we prepare ourselves, why don't we go meet up with MDF and Jacob PR, your casters for today.
Thank you so much, Zeke. And one thing I know for sure, Monster, is today is going to be full of chaos. Just because those 13 teams that already qualified to the Summit Land are no longer in this lobby does not mean it's going to be a cakewalk at all.
No, definitely. I mean, we have teams that we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on, one of which might just be fully contested. You have Bucky and Zen, right, Jacob? This is, of course, one of the many popular teams showing up this weekend. One of the more exciting ones we want to be talking about.
Yeah, this is a team. We saw them in heats. They did get a victory royale to qualify to the FNCS Grand Finals. Unfortunately, they fell a little short. Contested drops. That's what's going to do it to you today. They landing at Sandy Strip. So although they are going to be contested, Monster, it's a much better drop spot. And that kind of leads to the next storyline. And we know what Bucky can do in big moments. This is Zen's chance to shine. We all know him as the guy you want on your team in Zone Wars. But this is a moment to be the Zone Wars guy and move into an FNCS superstar. We got some highlights here. He clutched up a big solo win just to get to this lobby.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of hype around Zen. He's definitely been having his moments. Performing just yesterday to bring him to this, portion of the stage here is definitely impressive, Jacob. And that's really why we're giving him the little extra spotlight, the nod that we've been watching what's been going down out there. And for him in particular, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders now, because can he basically make a jump to his first land? It's the real question here, Jacob.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of questions as the day goes on. A lot of them will be answered quickly. A lot of them will take the full 6 games. We'll catch up with you guys later. Back to Zeke, Kelly, and Vivid to break down the rest of the teams.
Thank you, guys. I think if we took all of the things that they just said and we kind of summarized to like a one-liner, it would be Zen is him. Okay, let's take a look at the lobby list. Who will we be seeing compete here in the second chance qualifier? Here's a look at the first 25 names. Let's go ahead and start with Iamso and Josh. So here we are in the second chance qualifier. This is a high profile duo, right? I mean, like, there's just no way these guys don't end in that top 7.
Oh, well, I mean, don't jinx them, Zeke. My goodness. But yes, Josh and Iamso, as far as it goes for accolades and everything, they're probably the most notable team that we have in the competition right now. Landing over in Storm Station, which is where we saw Acorn and Bolts land over there. Obviously, they have tons of real estate. They have a lot of opportunities for rotations with the static launch pads. And as far as endgame goes, we know these guys to be low ground, the front of low ground warriors going for those eliminations, and I think that's something that we can probably expect to see them as well today.
Yeah, would love to kind of see them control the low ground. I think we saw a lot of teams kind of find that position to be successful over the course of the weekend. And if we take a look at who actually won grand finals, Curve and Veno, this new formation of teams that's kind of hit the spotlight when it comes to Fortnite competitive, where you take a vetted player and pair him up with like this young gun who can really find you all of those eliminations. This is kind of like a similar team, right? Iamso, that vetted experienced player. And then you have Josh, who's kind of expected to be the mechanical player, the young player who can kind of find this elimination. So in terms of forming of this team, they've got the right building blocks here to be exciting to see if they can clutch up and get top 7, but they are looking like favorites.
Oh, love to see that. Why don't we talk about the next duo as we bring that lobby list back up? So this duo actually newly formed for the second chance, right? It's actually Kingling and Craze. So coming into this stage of the competition, making it here now with the second chance on the line. Being newly formed, Kelly, do we think this duo can take it all the way? Can they end in that top 7?
Well, when you say newly formed, we have to add the asterisk to it because they've actually played together going all the way back to the start of Chapter 7, Season 1, and they had relative success. But obviously, they broke up, and we had Kingaling go play with Aviv, where Craze ended up playing with Bugha, and they both did end up making it pretty far, but unfortunately not able to qualify themselves to Dusseldorf. But when I look at this duo right now between King and Craze, what I think of is explosiveness, Vivid. I can expect a lot of craziness from the mid-ground, and honestly, they're probably going to be going for height. Maybe sometimes they're going to be going on the low ground. Can't really predict from this duo.
Yeah, flip the script. Forget everything I just said about Yamzo and Josh and the spotlight of experienced and a young, newer player, because this team, I gotta tell you, looking at their FNCS finals appearances, they only have a combined number of 8. So both of them are going to kind of be like new to these sort of lobbies. I will say though, usually when we take a look at new players entering the light of like a fixed lobby like this, usually the toughest thing for them is Storm Surge. However, taking a look at their drop spot, they are going to be uncontested with a ton of teams around them that are going to be contested. So there is actually opportunity there for them to go ahead and conquer Storm Surge. So yeah, I think they're actually looking good today.
You guys don't think that maybe the pressure of now the second chance lobby forming for this, right? Extra eyes even looking at from the outside looking in going, can these guys even make that top 7? Is that going to be enough to break the duo? Do you think they're not even thinking about it, right? They can't let these thoughts enter because they have a job to do today.
I do wonder what the mental state is for a lot of our teams going into this, because we know that there are so many differences when we see the last chance qualifier and then when we see a grand finals lobby, even from what we see in the heats, there's a much different meta. And so I'm wondering, going into this, have they already experienced, success and then failure and then like, oh, they've already given up? Or is this going to drive them more? Are they going to try weirder things now because this is like a second chance? I don't know, Vivid.
No, I think they're going to be fine, right? You kind of mentioned it. Both of these players got to, dip their toes in the water over the course of the weekend. They experienced a grand finals. Second chance qualifier should be a little bit easier. You don't have those 13 top teams over here. So no, I think they're going to do fine. I think a little bit of the pressure is actually taken off today.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Let's bring up that lobby list one last time. This time, we will flip on over to page 2 to kind of give you a more complete picture of who all will be competing in the second chance qualifier. A final duo to talk about here, Shadow and Virgo. So we've seen these guys pop off already, right? And now we are here in the second chance. This has to bode well, right, Kelly? Like, we've seen pop off performances from them before. Placing top 10 feels pretty doable.
Oh, it feels definitely doable. I mean, you're talking about pop-off performances. If we watch the qualifiers for this second chance, Shadow and Virgo ended it off with 153 eliminations. The next the next highest was 110. So they are definitely doing well as far as eliminations go. And it's Shadow and Virgo. Vivid is a big fan of them, so I'll let him take it from here.
I mean, I really am just a big fan of these guys. I swear, every single time I see Shadow in an FNCS Grand Finals lobby, because he's been consistently finding his way there, I've been like, yeah, I swear that guy has potential, man. I really want to see him pop off. And it's easy to look at this duo as being favorites when you just take a look at the play-in portion of the second chance qualifier, which happened yesterday, where, of course, they did get first place, 556 points. But even leading up at like grands, right? Scrims, the heats, play-ins prior to that, they really did look like a very good duo. And the eliminations are really what just stand out. Obviously, it stood out in the play-ins yesterday, 153, the team that got the most, but that was the trend even prior to this second chance qualifier. They were constantly finding wins in the scrim games. They were constantly finding eliminations over there as well. So this duo is really flying under the radar right now, and I'm happy that we get a chance to see them play today.
That's right, man. Only a little bit longer before we kick off the competition. I want to get your guys' kind of thoughts. This being the second chance qualifier, we have 6 games to make something happen. We have to end top 7. Where are you guys at on your hype levels? I mean, we've never done one of these before, right? So first time for everything.
Oh, I'm a little hype. I'm a little scared and nervous. I don't know. I would say, let's say a 6.
I mean, listen, I thought we were kind of done with Fortnite until we actually hit the summit, but no, we got this big surprise here. 6 games of Fortnite. NAC always delivers. I'm excited.
Fortnite fam, we hope you guys are locked in and as excited as we are. It is competition time. Remember, we're going to be saying it all games long. 6 games. You need to be top 7 in consistency to head on through to the summit. Jacob PR, MDF, take it away.
You know, Zeke, I am just as excited for today's games of action. I'm kind of sitting comfortable in my chair now, but I know I'm going to be the edge of it by the day is over. Monster, these teams that qualified today, they go to the Summit land, but they don't go to day one. They go directly into day two. So it makes me wonder, how much does that change things for them?
Yeah, it's going to be a really important kind of scenario here at play, right? You have this second chance now to try to make your way to land, a first of its kind that we've never seen. What's at stake right now? Positioning and overall consistency is just the name of the game. You know, one might argue that the win and your in condition was a lot easier to get through. So this is going to be a pretty competitive format, Jacob, as far as getting the 7 best teams here from NA and sending them to Germany.
Yeah, and if any of the regions taught us anything, this one is literally going to go down to the 6th and final game to who makes it in. But we got the start of a journey today, so let's jump right into the battle bus and take it away.
All right, Jacob. Enough's enough. We get to jump in this battle bus one more time. Almost a surprise battle bus, if you will. Even ourselves had, just found out, like, oh, snap, we get a whole broadcast for this. This is exciting. So what a treat for us. We get this NA competition here on hand. Kicking things off, we already see new teams as well forming together, right? You got Skittle and Cam Slam here. That, to me, was also a surprise coming into the qualifier yesterday to even see what teams made it to this final stage.
Yeah, and already you're seeing something that we didn't necessarily see in the finals, a contested side of the Battlewood Boulevard, the north side overall. And that's something that Vivid mentioned. With 13 teams out, you got a whole slew of spots that are opening up, teams immediately trying to take advantage. This is where Curve Invent, or FNCS champions, actually did land, and you can kind of see why players are moving in this location. Sharkman and Yuz, they missed out on that opportunity, but this is the second chance, and sometimes that's all you need. He's going to stay alive now and try to create some distance between him and Cam and his duo on the other side, so that way he at least has an opportunity to get the reboot card and his teammate back in the game.
Both of these duos here are very much experienced players, but Yuz has got to be careful. He's moving straight towards Dragon and Creon there. Team that can obviously hold their own. All in all, though, I mean, it makes sense that teams would want to claim the Battlewood Boulevard. You know, the strategy's already been played out. The playbook, if you will, is out there. Zen and Bucky, though, the team that obviously we've been excited to watch play out here now that we're in the second chance kind of format. Obviously, they had a chance within the grand finals, to try to make their stake, their claim to land. However, this is their redemption opportunity.
And I know we kind of see a lot of contested fights. Sometimes they go head-to-head just like this. Other times, try to disengage on out. Sandy Strip, in theory, is going to be big enough. But Bucky said it himself, we are fighting here. No matter who lands here, 2 teams, 3 teams, heck, you can send the whole lobby. They're ready to duke it out. And already you kind of see shades of that happening. Bucky trying to get a whole nother angle. This is where things might slow down just a little bit because the material count. That's a whole different level of confidence when you're able to push in, take control of the pieces, and try to go for some big shots. Bucky right now has a lot of those materials for the duo.
Yeah, also just the ammo starting to run low as well, so you can tell this is being pretty dragged out, and all sides have done very little farming. Even Zen has to drop his AR here, swap into the pistol for now. Meanwhile, Bobby and Kicks just playing ultimate low here, trying to buy some time, trying to maximize whatever material counts they can get. Tough spot to be in if you're Bobby and Kicks. Better spot for Bucky and Zen, who are kind of dictating the pace here.
And I like this idea. They're not necessarily disengaging in terms of like leaving the actual POI altogether. They realized what's happening and how their opponents are playing that fight. You don't want to stay stagnant in this position, not being able to farm up and to loot. So Zen and Bucky, they're just going towards the outskirts of the actual POI, getting some extra loot, but you can see they keep looking in that direction, Monster. They're ready to fight it if it still comes down to it and if that opportunity opens up. But as that one slows down, we go to the other side of the map where Yamzo and Josh. Yamzo for a while now, community talking to him. He's the future of Fortnite. He's that guy. And then he teams up with Josh, who honestly, him being here, he got that PC from Click, so you almost got to thank him for getting this big opportunity here now playing with Yamzo. They have been lighting up the leaderboards, and honestly, I would be surprised to not see him at the Summit Land.
Yeah, and then you have the Josh Rishon signing as well, right? So a lot of good things happening for the duo, at least now. You get to see how they perform. That's, I mean, honestly, an easy shoe-in here for top 7. As is, I feel like Shadow and Virgo, right? There are definitely some teams here that are strong, very, very strong duos that we expect to do well. It is just going to come down to a matter of can they step up to the expectations the community has of them. Rising Curly on the other side, one of those teams that just came up short. What do you think about this duo here, Jacob?
I like it for, Rise, we've seen him around FNCS for years. You probably longer than me. You've been a mainstay on the broadcast for quite a while. Just coming into this, he hasn't had the best teammate options, but it almost goes to show like his passion. When he's passionate, when he's dedicated and putting the time in the game, he has some good duos. He has some good chances, but when he's not, that's when you see his slip up. I think this Rise is passionate. He's dedicated. He's playing with Curly. Again, we talk about the experienced players kind of playing with the new guard. That's another example here, and they're uncontested this time around, so I do have high hope for them, especially Rise being one of the better IGLs in the region overall. But you're seeing how this one's playing out. The zone is kind of pulling these teams towards the south overall, maybe the center of the map. And so for the teams that are landing on the outskirts, they're more focused on rotating in toward the zone, gaining some scraps. You see Yemity here along with Avenger. They are missing a ton of metal, which is one of the most precious resources that we have. And this is kind of the name of the game. Stay away from those early game fights. Keep your surge intact and just trying to figure out what fills the rest of your loadout.
I am a bit concerned, though, when I see teams stay this long in the storm early on. We've seen it come back around to bite them multiple times now throughout the last couple of weeks here on the main stage. I feel like it's inevitable. But for now, things are pretty chill. Chris and Drew had, I want to say, a fair amount of success in their fights, at least in the early game, right? We saw Peterbot, we saw Boya trying to push this team in. They really didn't or weren't successfully able to fully eliminate them. However, you can tell that, clearly something went wrong with their overall earning points strategy. So they're mixing things up, right? Coming up to the Frigid Fortress, we don't really see this team kind of move in this general direction, at least not from what I can remember. So I am curious to see if Chris and Drew can piece together a new strategy, a fresh strategy coming into this week.
Yeah, especially being kind of a newer team. We're kind of seeing them consistently make these Div Cup finals, dating back a few of those. They've made 16 overall combined. They've made 3 FNCS finals appearances, 2 of those coming this past weekend as a duo. So they're still gaining their footing in the overall ecosystem of competitive Fortnite, but they've shown so many shines of brilliance here of how to really play Fortnite in general. They've seen the top of the leaderboards. They just need to be able to execute in all 6 games and not fizzle away. 20, another one of those players, kind of like a household name, teaming up with, I do believe, Neko here. And they're landing on the south side of the map. We're rotating rather quickly. I'm not a huge fan of this side of the map, or especially landing here, but if you're able to get some sort of base set up where the zone is rotating in this direction, you're going to be faring very, very well compared to most of the other teams that have to rotate in.
Yeah, for now, the storm is favoring that eastern and southern area. Threats and Veer, on the other hand, completely different story. They've had moments where they were shining up at the top, and then, of course, their bad string of games that set them off the pace for qualification. Now, we're back here at the second chance. Definitely will be keeping an eye on this team and seeing what they can do to piece together a big win, hopefully, here on the weekend. G-Monster, Eshu, same can be said for this team, a team that is very confident and comfortable when it comes to taking fights. Like what they have going on here, though. Look at the loadout. Things seem to have been going well for them.
Yeah, it's kind of another one of those teams that you're talking about, breaking up after the grand finals. They placed 35th, 20th on 2 separate rosters, and then just kind of coming together here. And there was a lot of hope for the Dolzair and Ishu duo, along with G-Money and his duo. They just weren't able to execute. But this is the second chance. Sometimes you got to push that memory so far in the back of your mind, it's just no longer even there. It's not necessarily going to be a non-factor, but you see the zone forcing more and more teams into the south side of the map. We see just outside of the zone on the left side is going to be Dark Dominion. So there are a couple of mountain ranges in play here for Vert and Taki. They don't necessarily have control over them, but any teams rotating off of that mountain is definitely going to be in their line of sight.
There's a favorite for Shadow in Virgo. Been following Shadow's competitive journey since I've met him. But at his first LAN, actually, it was a little local tournament here in Texas. He was such a sweet young boy. And now look at him, all grown up, making his way to grand finals. Just an incredible story for him. And he's only gotten better every single year. You know, Vivid kind of kept talking about, hey, we see him popping up. We keep having these high hopes, these high expectations. And year after year, he's slowly improving. Give that a second, though. Evan, Pure BX jumping into things, getting their hands dirty here, finding their first set of eliminations onto a team, taking them down. And actually, Jacob, I didn't even get to look at the player count. My gosh, almost 90 players standing right now. By far the most congested we've seen. I mean, even since the Heat stages, I don't think we had any zone approaching zone 3 with that many players live.
Yeah, I'm over here just trying to think as you're talking, like, was it Heat? No. Finals? No.
Oh,
there was
definitely.
almost no stage in the tournament process where we had 89 players alive at fourth zone. Just kind of shows that the second chance might be a lot of these players' last chance here, and they're really putting it on the line. There's only 6 games instead of finals where you had 12 games. There's almost no room for mistakes because that one game could set you behind tenfold to see a couple more teams trying to rotate in off that mountain that I was talking about from Dark Dominion. So you're seeing the shockwaves come and play, and that's just going to leave you open to getting tagged up from teams around the outskirts. So ready and waiting for other teams to rotate first, even though Scare and Osid are barely on that line. They have all the time in the world to fix their position a few inches.
Gotta be careful. You have Iamzo and Josh Riley lurking nearby as well, trying to see if the team's going to make a move. Big fan of Scare and Osid sticking together here. Definitely a team that has that rapport with one another. Looking at the feed, though, not sure what happened with Zen there. Possibly fallen in the storm. We'll keep tabs on that team. Jumping up to 91 players now as players get rebooted. So a lot of activity in play here. Meanwhile, you have Electro trying to rotate on the outskirts. Scare putting in good pressure from up top. Iamzo, Josh Riley try to go for one of those exchanges. Clearly, they end up on the losing side of it.
Storm Surge is going to activate. We knew this was coming. 91 players still up, and there's going to be a good chunk. We saw Josh Iamzo less than 100 above the damage threshold. I think that is going to be the case for a good portion of this game and a good portion of these teams. So if you do get that max pull, you have to be quick to rotate. You have to figure out a plan before it comes into play. Some teams might not necessarily be in that same scenario, though. You see Pure, you see Evan, they have options here. It looks like they're rotating towards Scribbly Shores. There is a rift here that they can try to utilize, but depending on where the entire lobby is, it's pulling towards the south. They're going to have to go through a congested part of the zone if they actually want to make it there.
Have to be very careful not to cross path with a team that has a need for Storm Surge. They're one of the few that actually has 3 eliminations in the game right now. You can tell even from this one right here how quickly they were to be trading shots there and come out, of course, ahead. And that's why they're sitting comfortably on the threshold. Meanwhile, talk about teams that already have been affected by the surge. Boz and Kugo here surely have a lot to be desired here, as they're hanging at the Dark Dominion trying to play for the Mending Machine, just buy themselves some time. But I mean, they're gonna be forced, essentially, I was gonna say, like, key a team or something. There's too many teams in a storm that are below.
Yeah, and just because you see here Avenger, Yemity, they're 16 above, right? They can rotate to zone perfectly and not take a single stretch, but they can still fall below the damage threshold because of other teams on that leaderboard being active, getting damage. Yes, they take a couple of shots there. They do fall below, and the instant they do, it's active Storm Surge. Every 7 seconds, 25 damage. So if you're below that threshold, you are officially on a clock to try to get any bit of damage that you can. I think Avenger, Yemity, they're feeling the pressure here, trying to push up onto Jojo Fishy and a Oxy. They get the eliminations here, but they're still not above the threshold.
Yeah, that was an incredible play that'll land on the teammate, but now Yemity's under pressure here. So Avenger doubles back into the storm instead of chasing that elimination so that they can get the most out of their mist, Flowberry Mist here. Now, I do respect the play, but definitely risky. Might have been better to just split up and go for the damage instead. Avenger with a desperate shockwave and spray and pray there, but it's just not going to be enough now. 99 damage below. There goes the last surge tick to finish them off. Curve and what looks to be... Oh, is that King? Yeah, okay. King and Craze jump down to pick up the loot here.
I get you, man. He's just trying to channel his inner FNCS
Don't like
champion
it.
here.
Don't
Yeah,
like it.
Curve. Not necessarily. I want to see Craze get the shine, but that's just one of those mentalities here where he doesn't care if he gets the spotlight. He doesn't care if he's MVP. He doesn't care anything like that. He just wants to perform well. And that's one thing for certain. I've seen Craze from the start of the year up until now go through Roster Mania on his own, but more times than not, he is performing well, barely missing out of qualification in some moments. So you can see it with a brand new teammate here in King, somebody who's actually getting his own shine as well, King. If they can pull up in 6 games, get one of those 7 spots, Rise, the mainstay to FNCS. He's calling this his own last dance here. He's getting a second chance here, 146 above the damage threshold. A ton of trust in Curly here to perform, but they got a max pool. They are 146 above the damage threshold, and that is going to be something in the back of their mind as they rotate.
Well, the intuition's very good here to recognize that this might be a free opportunity, a good fight to take, but no, they end up second-guessing themselves, and off they go. More cautious about the Storm pushing them in and being very far from the rotate. The timing seems perfect, though. Look at this. They slip right by, avoiding tons of pressure, and honestly, they're just early enough before other teams get to set up. Meanwhile, jump into the Storm here. You have Zen and Bucky. Okay, 3 below right now, so they definitely have a bit to worry about, but they're not in the worst of positions. They actually ended up tanking Storm to position themselves dead center now. So Bucky and Zen, I think, are in a pretty okay position. You know, all things considering, it could be much, much worse.
Yeah, I like their position. I got to agree with you 10 times over on that one. The thing that worries me, though, is looking at Bucky's inventory. He has 7 AR bullets. So they're already threading the needle when it comes to Storm Surge. You saw Bucky use some of that medium ammo to kind of bleed through the builds and get themselves above the damage threshold. But eventually that's going to run out. Eventually they're going to need some sort of refresh. Josh and Yamzo, they're feeling the pressure as well. 200 above. They try to go for a sneaky play onto Vert and Taki. They're already in a good position here, but seeing the pizza being dropped, that goes to show that both of them probably had an open item slot that they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, most definitely. Look at that. The elimination actually comes through because the Surge does the rest. So they get rewarded with points. Now they're looking for that body here to see if they can go ahead and find some desperate material count here. Already out of wood. Josh Riley is riding on the edge. So we start taking a look at the wider picture here. Osid off to the side. The only team positioned with a little bit of high ground. Seems like they were the first to make it to zone. Possibly even a lucky pull there. Every team we're jumping in with, though, has something wrong with the loadout, though, whether it's lack of heals or material count or damage or ammo now. It's a little bit of a world of problems for a lot of the favorite teams here in game number 1.
Yeah, I think 91 players up was kind of foreshadowing how chaotic this was going to be. Most of the people we're seeing are like 120 or less above the damage threshold. Vert, you see Bucky here along with Zen. They're able to stay consistent. I talked about the ammo, but you're seeing a whole refresh on Bucky. He found what he needed, and now they're on the high ground. This is giving me deja vu of game number 1 in their heats where they were able to pull out a victory royale to go ahead and qualify to the finals, but they can't slow down. Neither can Curly and Rise. They find a quick elimination here, much needed for the Siphon.
They absolutely needed the damage as well. Look at this. That throws them up 300 above. That was going to be a 200 damage secured there. However, the Storm has done its work to rise here. And ooh, big shots come in now. Pretty desperate position now to be in. The pros don't fake. He just goes straight through, commits to the rotate, ends up with Curly here now. Safe and sound for now. But Curly opens the box instead of waiting for his teammate. Whoa, whoa, whoa. A little bit risky there. Now 2 teams on either side, and Curly's down. But a Flowberry miss comes in. I don't even know who dropped that one there, but Rise is happy to soak it up.
He just needs some damage here, 257. He has no heals. He cannot attempt to out-heal this. 6 players need to go down. Storm Surge will turn off. He's really down to 1 last minute, 214 below the damage threshold. He's really hoping and praying that either somebody makes a mistake or other teams look to get aggressive to try to pick up those points. Can only really take 3 more ticks here. 4 more players need to go down, and this is where he's trying to break through the walls, find any opportunity he can. Players up above and down below, that boxes him up. That toe zone, that scare, that get the elimination and take Rise out of game number 1.
Yeah, they catch him with a quick edit there. I see CDZ and Raven still alive as well here coming into this end game. Now look at the difference, though. Bucky, Zen in full control of the high ground. Storm Surge no longer a problem for them. And this is an optimal position to be in. They also have the win condition, a fresh pizza box, couple splashes. This is a lot to work with here for Bucky, but first, you gotta just make it through this next couple of zones here. Trying to conserve a little bit of material. They go with the shockwave. And hey, we hyped them up for good reason. They might just be walking their way to their first win here, Jacob.
Yeah, this is Zen's chance right now. I talk about going from just a regular old Zone Wars player that has a good reputation to a superstar in FNCS, in BR. They're one of the only teams on the high ground. Doesn't look like anybody's going to go up and try to contest them. Maybe not yet. There goes Stiff, Eulogy, Shadow, Virgo. Yamso's left by himself, so he's not going to go for it. Josh gets eliminated. The last splash is going to be used. He makes a mad dash in, but with only 4 builds left, Yamso is going to need a miracle because it's only the top 19. That's how stacked this lobby is. Barely any placement points so far for everybody's efforts.
Yeah, that was a full desperate push for Yamso and Josh there. They try to just solo into a box and unfortunately get crashed on, and they needed that refresh there. So look at this. Bucky, Zen going back at it, but look, that ultimate high ground hold here has cost them so much. Yes, they're earning the placement points, but now they're starting to run out. They weren't able to get the refresher, not like Threats and Veer are doing here. 5 eliminations now. Things are starting to rack up for the team in the mid layer.
Yeah, they're almost to halfway in the placement points. They got Elims and another one added to the total. Evan goes down. Threats immediately finds back-to-back eliminations here. A third opportunity there, but they realize it's mainly focusing on getting to zone. That should be the plan. Stay away from all the danger. Jace goes up. Liam as well. Bucky and Zen, they're just nowhere to be found. Up until now, they said, hey, you might take our high ground, but it's not going to be for free.
Can't respect Jace's play there. Jumps into the storm for a little bit. Tries to buy himself some time. Liam still, and the end will control the high ground. And now Liam just takes a glance around, makes sure the coast is safe, and it surely is. And he's up top, and he's actually so gapped between him and the rest of the competition. He's got nothing to worry about. Down he comes here. Zen's still alive, though. Clutching up to top 5 there in the end. It's Shadow who takes him down. So you have Shadow still alive, too, playing this out as a solo in the mid layers. But this win is looking like it's going straight to Liam and Jace here.
I'm just trying to figure out where's that solo at. Cam behind enemy lines. This could be a thorn in the size. He looks to shockwave in, makes a play onto Liam. First shot's gonna land, but unfortunately he falls all the way down below into the Lion's Den, where 20 Neko look to try to get this elimination on the solo player. They know he's by himself. That's 4 points. That's a refresh. Everything they need, but he falls just a little too short. Virgo gets the elimination. Shadow as well joining hands. It's almost looking like a 2v2, but Cam is still alive.
Yeah, definitely, and they want these extra positioning points here, and of course eliminations to go with it. Shadow and Virgo get crushed by Jace and Liam in the end, and just like that, they win with 8 eliminations, Jacob, and really it could have went either way.
No, it definitely can. It was looking like a Bucky and Zen game for a good portion of those ending moments, but they ran out of builds. They invested everything early, so Jace, congratulations along with Liam. Game number 1 has never looked easier, Zeke.
Right, Jacob BR? This is the momentum we need to get ourselves started here in the second chance qualifier, right? With only 6 games available, we need these big pop-off games immediately, right, Kelly? To start, to get game 1 and go ahead and say, you know what? Little VR, sprinkle some 8 elims on top. Pretty good. Pretty good!
Yeah, these pop-off games can definitely set them up to have a more easy go as the remaining 5 games go, where they're not necessarily going to have to constantly be getting top 3 and a bunch of eliminations. Now they can kind of just coast, honestly. And I'm not saying coast, they obviously still need to be making it to the end game, but literally by getting almost 100 points in game number 1, you are solidifying yourself up in the top of our leaderboard. So now they just need to play it cool, calm, and collected in it.
Yeah, they have a huge jump start on the rest of the competition. And I gotta tell you right now, this is looking awesome for Liam and Jace. Jace is actually one of those players who has never qualified to a grand finals before and is now a front runner to go ahead and qualify to a LAN before a grand final. That would be great to see. Yeah, just a classic game there, right? We keep seeing it time and time again on this region. A little bit of a late high ground take wins you games.
Dude, super late, right? Like 10th, moving, flipping on over to 11th. I mean, you know, we saw it all grands long. Height is a path to success, right? So I'm excited to see how players adapt because, again, we only have 5 more games in this second chance qualifier. players need to do everything they can to take advantage of it. Now, with that being said, that was just game number 1. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we start to prepare ourselves for game number 2. So we'll see you real soon.
Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive.
Two teammates have his back. Where's Smash? Gets the drop on the Marius. Stays alive. They're targeting up Vanya. 3v1.
I got hit. I'm popping a med bit. Wait, short. Got 6 build? No, messed up.
Wait, if you're mid play.
100! 100! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
And I don't know how to feel about it.
You're not used to losing. Getting beaten?
Not like this. These players are just so locked in.
Could it be the milk? It's okay. Stay there.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the second chance qualifier. Game number 1 goes on over to Liam and Jace with 8 elims. But now with 5 more games to go, we have to kind of start looking at not only the leaderboard to kind of start talking about what's going on, but maybe start making some informed decisions, because with only 5 games left to go, you know, Kelly, there's only so much room, but still, it's all good, right? As we kind of start to take a look at the standings and kind of see what we saw in that game, Bucky and Zen kind of making some moves there, Kelly. We saw him on the high ground for a little bit. I was like, okay, all right. I like what I'm seeing.
Big moves coming from Big Bucky, of course, on high ground there, taking it a little bit earlier, around zone 8, if I'm not mistaken, is when they looked like they were going to be taking it. And they were able to control it for quite a while, but however, it was Liam and Jace that went to go steal height and kind of put the foil into their plans. But you can see right here, Bucky and Zen going for that early rotate into the front zone around zone 7 to kind of take this early height, what we saw Clix and Higgs doing a lot during the grand finals. And then once it went to zone 8, zone 9, kind of solidifying the control of it. However, just not able to hold on to it for the very end, but still doing a pretty good job with it at the start of endgame there.
Yeah, they just play those early zones very, very well, right? 6th zone being one of the pivotal points for this team here, because they were actually struggling with Storm Surge, as was every other team, by the way, because at one point it was like 4th, 5th zone, 91 players alive. So very, very tough for a lot of our players to actually handle Storm Surge that game. But Bucky and Zed made the most of it. 6th zone right there. We're able to kind of get all of their damage needed from all those players kind of rotating over towards Sandy Strip. But yeah, some higher ground identity from Bucky and Zen early on. Would love to see them consistently kind of play for that and hopefully keep control of it next time.
All right. We got 5 more games, right? They can make it look clean, right? And if not, we did see Zen pull off a couple solo clutch rather there. So I'm excited to see what else they got for us. Also wanted to highlight Threats and Veer. Honestly, a strong starting place. They ended that game in 8th place with 8 elims, but they're currently sitting in 3rd place, right? I mean, we just string a few of those kind of consistent games together, and guys, we could be looking at a top 7 qual.
Yeah, we got to see some low ground teams from like Shadow and Virgo were in the low ground there, 20 and Neko as well. But Threats and Veer was really impressing me on the mid ground. They did a really good job focusing on like good angles, taking some shots on the players running down below them, getting those eliminations, just like what we're seeing right here, as well as also just peeking up on height. I noticed they did. But of course, eventually their run is going to end, and the mid ground has to be one of the most dangerous places you can kind of just be hoping to grab a few good eliminations. So still, by having that many eliminations, they are going to be sitting themselves up in 3rd place right now. So it just goes to show how important those eliminations are, Vivid.
Yeah, incredible work from them. We actually saw right there, they only had 1 elimination going into the moving zone. So finding a lot of those refreshes in the mid ground, like you talked about, was the only thing really keeping their game alive right there. And, I can't lie, we've kind of seen a trend kind of happening with high ground. It gets a little messy. So these teams that are able to do well from the mid ground, from the low ground, I feel like they have a real big edge up on the rest of the competition. So look out for Threats and Veer to continue to do well. Again, Storm Surge is going to be a big thing, and Threats is known as one of the players on this region to have some of the best aim. So definitely is going to be awesome to kind of have him on the duo here and hopefully carry you to a positive Storm Surge consistently throughout the rest of the games.
Okay. Viv, I'm looking at that top 7 though, right? Remember, we need to end the day in the top 7 if we want to go through to the summit. Shadow and Virgo currently occupying that spot now. As you kind of called out at the beginning of the show, these guys had a really strong showing in yesterday's open qualifiers, right? So currently we had a 3rd place with only 3 elims. Like, of course, that's not crazy, but honestly, as a starter game, that feels like this is a good start.
Yeah, I think the thing here is, 3 eliminations is definitely lower than I think me and Kelly were kind of expecting. That was a big talking point about this duo. But the fact that they were able to get 3rd place with only 3 eliminations, I feel like that's really, really good, actually.
Yeah, if you looked at even before where we were at the very end there, they were kind of in shambles. So to be able to survive that long and still get some like eliminations, I love to say it, the pro players that really separate themselves from the rest of the pack, it's not doing right when everything's going well, it's doing well when everything's going wrong. And I think that they kind of exemplified that really well in that game. Shadow and Virgo didn't really have much for the end game, but still able to make it into 3rd place.
Okay. I also want to take a look at the leaderboard right now. Josh and Yamzo currently in 18th place. They actually ended that game in 18th with 2 eliminations. A little bit of a slow start for the duo, but I mean, this is Yamzo and Josh, right? Like, we just need one of these super strong games to suddenly be back in contention. And I think with 5 games left to go, Kelly, that's going to happen, right?
What did I say about cursing them, Zeke? What did I say about jinxing it? No, it's Iamzo, it's Josh, it's game number 1. Iamzo and Josh are going to be able to look at this, review, and then make a comeback once again. Iamzo and Josh are incredibly smart players. So even though they might be a little bit emotional, honestly, I think that just with 1 game done, they're not going to get too frantic just yet. I think that they're going to be able to kind of collect themselves and come back to game 2 with a fresh mindset.
Yeah, when we actually tuned into some of the highlights there from the duo, we kind of saw that they were like 500 above, but that did not tell the full story for the rest of the game. If you were kind of paying attention, when they were 500 above, they also only had like 14 builds remaining right there. And that's because they had to invest a lot of those builds to actually get positive when it came down to the Storm Surge. So one of those duos that was struggling early on, we've already talked about it multiple times. All of the duos really were that game, but kind of surprising to see a duo like Yamzo and Josh struggling with Storm Surge, because you would kind of expect them to do well or a little bit better, being the experience that Yamzo has.
Yeah, we'll just chalk it up to like, hey, they're trying to figure out the meta within the meta that is the second chance, right? And obviously there's quite a bit of pressure to perform right now, right? This is it. This is that second chance. We need to end top 7, right? That was just game 1. No one freak out. I'll do that for us. With that being said, game number 2 is ready for us. Why don't we go back on over to the casters to take us in?
Yeah, definitely. I think the pressure to perform is real, but hey, the hardest part of the tournament's over. You put your feet on the battle bus and you got through game number 1, right, Jacob?
Yeah, that's one thing that we learned for certain throughout the stages here and throughout the years is game number 1 is usually the most stacked. It's usually where teams are filling each other out. Drop spots could tend to switch up as the day continues on. So I'm really looking at the players that have that mental stamina so that way they can be in bad situations, get out of it, and still have a phenomenal tournament. Monster, these are 5 games left, and I know they're going to fly by fast.
Yeah, it's looking pretty competitive as well. 60 point is the cutoff now. So you're going to have to average at least 60 or better to start jumping up the standings. So let's see it here for game number 2.
Like Monster said, 64 point Shadow and Virgo as of now is going to be the line, and I'm going to continue to follow that as the day goes on. But a nice win by Liam and Jace, 97 points. They were able to get 8 eliminations as well, and that's one thing that we learned throughout the grand finals in general is eliminations can literally carry your point threshold if you're not necessarily consistently in the top 8 or top 5.
Yeah, that's the thing. Elims are the literal game changer, you know, all things considering. Talk about such. Skittles just catching Yuz out the sky before he can even touch down. Sharkman gets tapped a few times as well, so a huge set of damage already swinging in their favor. Surely Cam's gonna find this body, right? You're not gonna let him roll away now. I think he actually does get away.
They sparted out Sharkman as well. No real shields on the Sharkman. Does find the medkit to at least get up to 100 HP, but not sure how that one's going to last or how long it's going to last. You were right. They do find Yuz, though. So Sharkman officially by himself. Checking out the minimap here, and he's just trying to go towards the south side of the overall POI. But that one's going to be hard because you see Dragon and Creon on the south side of the actual zone.
Yeah, definitely have continued to see them lurk about. Meanwhile, Bucky and Zen going back to business as usual. This is different from the last game. No standoff this time around, so Bucky and Zen have confidence surging right now as the stronger team at the Sandy Strip. You know, they might have questioned themselves last time around, allowing Bobby's team to just base down and force themselves to sort of disengage and give them half of the POI. Not this time. And do remember, because they did that, it cost them a lot of ammunition, right? They actually just decided, okay, we're just going to go ahead and do what we need to do on this side of the drop here, and they let the team live, but now they have this advantage here to work with.
Yeah, I like how they're not necessarily getting greedy either. They know Kix is in the POI somewhere by himself, but depending on what he looted up to start out with, he might not have a gold. He might have to go for that reboot card, so they have all the time in the world. Around Sandy Strip, let's pick and choose what they want to do. Josh and Iamzo landing at the top side of that mountain. They instantly loot up a couple barrels, a couple chests, and dropped out here. And that's one thing we saw throughout the heat, throughout the last chance, throughout major finals, is that launch pad back here is so valuable because it does allow you to dodge a lot of the mid game, but while you're dodging shots, you're dodging opportunities, and I think that's one of the focal points of why Josh and Iamzo were low on surge going into the end game.
Yeah, the thing is, you could play it either way. You could play it late for rotates. You could play it early for aggressive landing on different teams. So let's see if they make some adjustments. 20 help, just listening to a team nearby. Try to set up the ambush. Unfortunately, that team does not walk into the trap here. They end up exiting out the back. I'm going to get to fishing here. You can see from the bird's eye view, there's a lot of loot to be had here.
Doesn't matter how they want to approach the situation. You know, they want to get surged, they want to rotate out, jump on board. Rise by himself, currently forced to get rebooted. I was about to say no down just yet, but he at the last bullet from Kiffy, he does actually get the elimination, but it's going to be a 1v1. Almost wish in that situation Rise maybe should have shockwaved up a little bit sooner to stop him from actually getting clean cut shots onto Curly, but with the knock already there, he's just going on the chase. And the longer this one goes, it's not only going to be hard for Kiffy, but it's going to be hard for Rise as well.
Wait, other team?
That was the other team, or wait, what?
There was a duo in the distance.
I'm not sure because I was looking at the feed.
Wait,
it looks
actually,
like he went down to him. I am at a
he
loss
just
for
back
words.
out. You know what? We're not even gonna talk about it. Something happened. Rise is alive. Curly's alive. We got to keep going.
I'm someone who loves to talk a lot. I'm not normally left speechless, but that was a moment there. After today's games, Monster, I got to go back into replay, figure out what happened. But Curly Rise potentially getting blessed there, because getting a revive is a much different story than having to get the reboot. The audio would have given away your position. So Rise and Curly, if there's any moment in a tournament to pinpoint a miracle, that might be one. To see how they go with the rest of this game is Threats and Veer. Good start for them as well, but tested this time around. I'm not sure if it was to start this one up or is somebody lurking in that direction. That is going to be Traps and his duo. And it doesn't look like they're making a lot of noise, so this might be a lurk play going on. Oh, yes, it is.
Like the lurk play here. Not to distract us too much, but in my head, I'm just picturing his power just shut off. Like, just at the worst time. Oh my gosh. All right. Electro, Oak still alive here. You know, they had some success in the heats, right? Even in the finals. So, kind of the back and forth with Electro, Oak. They are a team that can definitely hold their own in the early game. Playing into the wonky line. Okay. Definitely appreciate the confidence to go for a tier 1 drop here.
Not going to be as free, though. They're not the only one that want that wonky land. Yemeni Avenger do tend to land over here throughout this part of the tournament. Both of them kind of going their separate ways early on. One team, though, is, you see, going to get control of that mini game. That's where you get a lot of the loot, a lot of the materials, and things like that. As we jump on board Craze and King, not too far away from their actual drop spot. They're immediately kind of basing up at that gas station on the outskirts of Squibbly Shores. It's going to really be up to King here to try to get as much surge as possible. And it's going to be up to Craze to kind of refill those empty item slots, get some extra heals. So if they do find themselves in a position waiting in the zone, it's not going to be for nothing.
Look at this monster space for Osin and Scare here. All vision on the landscape at the moment. No one in sight, though. Surprisingly clear. This is just a huge time commitment too, right? To kind of stay back here, especially when the zone's on top of you. Meanwhile, you have Scare inside the Latte Landing, just full maximizing his loadout right now. You have to think they have like a nice stash somewhere too.
On the ramp in the POI, and normally a team that lands Lante, when the zone does pull away, they take that back launch pad. I call it the long pad. It goes higher, goes further, especially with the effects of the shockwave and the fizz. But with the zone going in their favor, they actually got a few options. They can use the launch pad, they can stay in that long base that they've built. So depending on where the zone continues to pull, it's going to see where their hand pulls. Back on board, Electro and Oak talked about this being a contested fight. Yemeni is going to be underneath. Oak has one elimination. I don't see Yemeni's teammate anywhere in sight, so this might be a little bit of a 2v1 situation here. But Electro goes in, gets caught off guard, taken down in an instant. If you're Yemeni, that is one moment that you actually need. You see him going further and further towards the south side of Wonky Land, possibly towards that reboot or mending machine to try to get control of something.
Yeah, there it is. Looks like he's got the reboot card, so he is big chilling now, and then back onto the offense he goes. You know what? I was giving a lot of respect to this team of Electro and Oak, but Yemeni, you know, gotta put respect on the new blood, man. They're coming in, they're putting up the numbers, and just like that, they're finding highlights there, Jacob.
Yeah, slides in the box, gets the Elam, making sure that they don't get to touch the reboot van, but that's a lot of noise being made from the first attempt to this one. HQ encrypted. You see Aoxy and Jojo Fishy in the distance. So right now, a team that barely made it out, able to get the reboot. Looks like they're getting hunted early on. You see him trying to build a path for Avenger to fall into. Shots coming in from all directions. Not necessarily sure where he's going, but at least he's going to get down right next to Gemini. So getting that revive is going to be easier than not. But HQ Encrypted don't want to let that be a possibility. Immediately jumping in. That's 4 more points, Monster. That's one step closer to the Summit land.
Yeah, good read there from HQ2. Encrypted just to kind of wait this one out, being super patient, but once the opportunity presented themselves, they pounce right into the box. And they catch it before it's fully constructed as well, so I think Yemeni's gonna have a small lesson learned here to put that metal cone up sooner. Nonetheless, though, still in the game, right? They still have time to play this out.
Rage Cube encrypted now. Even with the zone pulling away, they just been gifted a second option here. Instead of typically rotating in, now they're going to be able to use that wonky wheel. But there goes Electro, just making that mistake, overstepping his boundaries. When you have a 2v1, sometimes you just got to play your numbers as best as possible. Raven and CDZ over towards 4 Fields. You know, we actually did get to see them not only qualify to the FNCS Grand Finals, but play in the Grand Finals as well. They played kind of drop spot roulette, landing at different spots on the map. They were definitely crushing dreams along the way there, and there's another moment as they get a clean elimination on Kale. That's going to be a full wipe because no knock comes into play, but that's a bit of noise that they made as the second team is strolling through 4 Fields.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that Raven and CDZ are like right in between. You know, that they got to just learn how to close that gap between where they are and catching up to those tier 1s, right? In Grand Finals, they got a full sample of what it's like to fight a Peterbot and Boyo under the most stressful kind of set lobby settings, you know? And obviously they came up a little short, but they're looking sharper than ever right now. Last game, they did earn just ever so slight amount of points, but they were getting really close to that end game. So they could patch things up. We'll see a lot of good things continue to develop there. For 20 and Halp, this is a team that obviously is off to a very hot start right now. 68 points, kind of leading the charge here for the line of where you want to be for your qualification spot. Take a look at this. From one fight to the next, it's up to Magma and Sleepsy. Okay, so this is actually a really good team. Raven and CDZ have to be careful here.
Yeah, but they got that one elimination. I was careful as you think. Slepsy going down. And that was a needed elimination. No HP onto CDZ and Raven. With that, they get splashes. They get pizza. That's a huge pick-me-up. And they don't even necessarily have to stay. There's a solo around this part of the map. You see Bolt and his duo around this part of the map. So they can't easily try to disengage. But the longer and longer they take, the harder and harder it's going to be to rotate out safely. You can kind of see on the outskirts of the minimap, Magma trying to run away. CDZ and Raven hot on the heels, but CDZ takes a monster of a shot. You see that that's doing to their Storm Surge. They were over 100 above. CDZ taking that shot puts them a 95, so continuous fight might be good for the leaderboard and getting points, but depending on how much damage you take, it may not help your case in terms of Storm Surge.
Yeah, I'm thinking now maybe, I was going to say maybe you have to finish this, but they feel differently. They're thinking to themselves, all right, let's not mess around with this Storm right here. Let's just get on out, replenish some of this material count. Look at how much it's cost them here playing so aggressively. But the biggest loss here is surely the damage. Oh, look at that. Little bit of leftover loot from previous team's pass. That's how it ends up playing out. It's Raven with a side angle. Catches that play before you can even react. On the high ground looking down is Taki and Vert here. A Frigid Fortress in full control right now. This is a great spot to be in, too. Look at the congested amount of duos starting to land in here.
And what I like to see so far is not only that, but like 2 different zones so far. You know, sometimes we do see tournaments where in 6 games, maybe 3, 4 of them kind of all go in the same direction. Game 1 goes towards the south. Game 2 looking like it's going towards the north. So really keeping players on their toes. As Vixie, Sky, they rotate in towards Wonky Land. You see they already got 1 knock on Avenger. Almost wondering if it was fresh off the reboot or not. Either way, you see them trying to look and figure out where Yemity had went. Who returns back on over toward that mending machine, trying to get as many medkits as possible. If he has any hope on Sir, at not only getting Avenger back in the game, but both of them getting out safely to the zone, because we're already in the 5th, where once we go in the 6th zone, it is going to be a 5-tick. He has to act quick. He has to go now. There's almost no time left on his clock.
Yeah, it's only going to get more and more difficult now to kind of stay in the game and end up in a position that's going to be competitive for yourselves. Looking at this, though, Soren's Shadow. And, of course, Virgo right now putting pressure onto Threats. I don't see Veer, so this is really bad. If you're Threats, obviously, who's underneath the Surge, you can see the lightning bolts coming up from above here. Pizza in hand will buy him some time, but he has no room to go ahead and pop it. And Temptation is going to kick in. You're going to see all that loot right there. Someone's going to go for it. Of course, Shadow and Virgo want it.
That's a big loss right there, and that's almost been the story of Threats throughout Major 1 in the entire competition. You know, having one good game followed out by something that is below par. He had 68 points in game number 1, 8th place, 8 elims, and then they fall so far below the curve in this one. But again, 6 games, plenty of time to make up for it. Bucky and Zen. They already did that, already performing well in game number 1, 5th place, 6 elims, and we saw their contested spot in game number 1. It was disengaged. They didn't necessarily fail well in Surge, but look at the difference here. 5th zone, over 300 above that damage threshold. They did get the elimination, so they're already picking up where they left off.
Yeah, I was going to say, keep in mind, this time they got that elimination. They didn't get tagged up in the early game. Sky loves Jesus, though, from the storm to the new zone, and now he finds himself his first elimination there. So that's actually an excellent way to kind of recover his way back into the tournament. Hopefully he can get the full finish in the Siphon there. Surely needs that extra HP. Meanwhile, Skittle and Cam, I've seen them just get their hands dirty all throughout the tournament game so far. Not too bad of a spot to be in. Storm is going to end up be pulling directly on top of them, so some favoritism at play here. Take a look at things, though, from the sides. Oh, Ravens team's under Surge. Rise looks to be under Surge for a secondary alongside Curly and a few others here.
Even Diego and Keys here, 122. Really only having minis. I don't really see med kits here, so this one's going to be a big mountain to climb. Potentially out healing, it might be the play, but eventually it's going to turn on yet again, so maybe not. 1 mini left. They're going to have to go in. Keys tries to make that play happen, but he instantly gets shut down, making it harder for Diego plays to get above the damage threshold. 2 more ticks is all he can take. Less than 14 seconds. Tries to go in. He gets sent right back out of this lobby. So again, back-to-back games where Storm Surge really playing a role and proving that if you're above that threshold, you have more control over your destiny. Josh Nyamzo again making up for that last one, well above the damage threshold this time around and not peeking unless they have to.
Yeah, gotta play smart now, especially since they're doing well with the damage here, so no need to take any risk, and they're actually primed up right now. Plenty of ammo, heals, builds. This is the perfect spot to be in as you're approaching the end game with the 6 overdrive shocks on either of their loadouts, so this is perfect scenario right now to play for a win or at least a top 5. Looking at things from the top down, you still have Shadow Virgo in the game. You still have Jebediah. How did he make it out the storm? I don't know, but I saw him catch an Elim in the feed too. He's just solo cruising right now. Meanwhile, Bucky and Zen going for a little bit of high ground here as they make the zone early, and they just didn't learn anything from the last game, did they? 36 builds, and Zen and Bucky are building for height. This is crazy.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where you kind of look at it and it's like, yes, we got high ground, we're up above, and honestly, not too many teams contested them on the high ground until maybe 10th zone, 11th zone. They were out of build, no choice but to give it up. So it might be a good position for them to make it through these next couple stages of the game, but they're eventually going to have to drop down and get an Elim. 67 above the damage threshold for Graze and King here. 42 points so far. 12 of them coming in this game alone through straight eliminations, going to show how active the lobby is. Skittles and Camp, they were above the threshold, but in the next zone, they're going to fall below, and you're seeing their teeter-tottering, ping-ponging back and forth from 12 below the damage threshold to 130 above to instantly fall 51 below once more.
Yeah, they found a couple little tags here to buy them some relief, but you can tell that it's not going to last very long. For Bucky and Zen, I want to see them build some single towers and use them shockwaves to get across. But look at this. King gets a nice Elim out the sky there, and then they start looking their focus up to the high ground. Couple tags onto Bucky, and this is why when you have control of height like this, you have to put pressure down on the second layers below you, and if you don't, you know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to end up finding an opportunity to turn on you.
Always got to be aware, always have to be proactive. Skittles, Cam, they try to do that. 3 eliminations here, but again, still find them 135 below the damage threshold. 6 players need to go down. Storm Surge will no longer be a thing in this game, but until then, that damage is going to dictate how you're performing. Cam not only taking damage from Storm Surge, but shots from King as well. He's going to get knocked, eventually cleaned up. Skittles now feeling the pain, 89 below the damage threshold. You see him scrambling, trying to find an answer, but 2 more ticks, that's all he can take. There goes Cam, but he's not really able to get anything, not even resources. Peekaboo, he goes down. Eventually, all these moments come to an end here. For King of Craze, though, this is a moment for them to shine. 700 damage above the threshold before it deactivates.
And they're popping off right now. 5 eliminations. They're catching back up as if they were never falling behind on the standings in the first place. Josh and Nyamzo need to do the same, but Nyamzo is down. So Josh is left to try to clutch this one out by himself right now. I look for other notable players still in the tournament right here. G Monster standing there in the distance as well, but All focus here now. Bringing on to Josh. Storm's coming from behind, bounces back, so he gets a little bit of favoritism here with the zone, and it's going to play out really well because it's going to save him so much material right now. Do keep in mind, he still has shockwaves as well. Shadow and Virgo on the other side, 3 elims, and things are starting to piece together here as they're playing the ultimate low.
Yeah, Shadow and Virgo's consistency looking insane right now. If they can kind of pick up some elims here, maybe a first place, really prove that they might be the team to beat. Craze and King trying to do that as well. King picking up his 4th elimination of this game so far, 5th overall, and a bunch of mats that they need as they change layers once more, going up, staying away from that low ground chaos because they know at a moment's notice things can turn around, so they're trying to stay ahead of the game. Same thing with Bucky and Zen. We asked the question, 7th zone, is it too early? So far for Bucky and Zen, it's not.
Yes, it is. No, it is too early. Zone 9, 15 builds now on Bucky. They're starting to gas out here. 13 for Zen. They're going to have to use their shockwaves and get their hands dirty here soon. Shadow, Virgo back in the mix on the low ground. Looking for a refresh here. They have a pressure on some duos here on the outside of the zone. Unfortunately, it doesn't turn into anything just yet, but the rotates look clean. There's bodies everywhere. Meanwhile, Josh is just trying to keep a low profile. He's made it his way into the top 20 right now, so at least you can appreciate that. But this is where the real points start to add up here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pressure here on Josh. Bucky staggering back. Zen is actually down, so Bucky staying on the high ground, deep into the zone, trying to get some shots on to Scare. Eventually, he's going to have to shockwave in, and that's not going to be a safe journey to the other side. But Josh, with an 18th place in Game 1, there's a lot of pressure on him to perform. No Iamzo by his side, and you see him quickly running out of resources, but a new team on height. They stole it away from Bucky and Zen at the perfect time. 11th zone, Scare and Osid, and they started this game outside of that top 7 bubble, so this is their moment to shine.
Pretty incredible game for Liam as well. I see him alive down at the front side of the rotate right now. Meanwhile, Josh is working his way up and off those congested layers, but he finds himself with another duo here. Great shot into Liam and Jace, but unfortunately couldn't get enough to find a finish or a follow-up. But still, a top 10 for Josh when he lost the Iamzo so long ago is so impressive. Pressure coming in from up top. Here comes Liam and Jace, possibly looking to make the edit down on him. But as we jump in with Virgo's perspective, up he goes from the backside. He gets caught out there. And here you have Mason and Aiden at 9 eliminations, Jacob. So all of a sudden, new teams are showing up and putting up the numbers.
Yeah, and you're seeing everybody that doesn't have builds has no choice but to drop down low. Light tries, Flex tries, one goes
11.
down. The elimination gets cleaned up. Aiden and Mason are popping off, but it's really up to Aiden now. You said it yourself, 11 eliminations. They probably have the most mats in this game as of now, but being spotted out as a solo is not where you want to be. But good thing for him, there's so much chaos going around, including Josh, who's barely surviving on a sliver of HP, simultaneously getting spotted out by high ground Osid and Scare, who dropped down, cleaned up that elimination. 5th place, not bad for Josh, though.
Not bad at all. A top 5 with the deck of cards placed against them for Osid and Scare. They've managed to rocket their way up the standings. They're trying to earn that big 65 points here for placement points if you can get the win. Liam still in the game. This is going to be a massive load of points for them to continue to keep their dominant lead over the lobby so far. Aiden still in the game, though. All in all, a very impressive game. Down goes Scare. Nicely done there. Straight into the box. Follows up, but Liam's shot is just too strong. And he's going to get the cleanup there, but Osid still has a win condition in his hands.
Yep, but Liam's not able to actually pick up the elimination for the loot, so he has to just wait for Scare to go down to the zone. The Siphon is what's keeping Liam alive. Hire's going to be down below, but only for so long before he gets taken out by Liam. Liam has won game number 1. You said it yourself. This is building themselves a little bit of a cushion, but Osid does not want to take the chance. He has the med kit, and he hopes this is the difference maker for 2, winning by heal off and getting 2nd place. It's going to work out for him, Monster. Osid and Scare, they are going to win this game and move up that leaderboard for sure.
Yeah, I was hoping there at the end. Maybe Liam found something to shockwave up to the top, but he didn't need it. Either way, you're going to be happy with a win and then a 2nd place. And for Osid and Scare, after falling behind in game number 1, talk about putting themselves back in the race here. Game 2 is wraps now. Scare and Osid Zeke win that one.
Again, MDF, this is where we want to be, right? If we're going to pull out these victory royales, we want those to happen a little sooner in the day, right? Because that's momentum, that's confidence, that kind of instills us with a new fire that we can take into the remaining games. And Kelly, you know, we've seen Scare and Osid before, so I'm not surprised to see him in a situation where they can take it to a win. Obviously, a heal off, that's a strategy to win. So I'm glad to see that they kind of like, even though it kind of looked kind of shambly, it's like, hey, no, Zeke, we got the med kit. We're taking it to heal off. We know what you're doing. Stay over there as a host.
I like that you say confidence when talking about this duo, because I think that they needed a big game for them to kind of build up some confidence to go from the grand finals and get 16th place, literally just outside of the threshold of going to Dusseldorf, had to have been a hit on their confidence. But then, of course, having the second chance announced, getting to come through the qualifiers, and then now winning game number 2, that is what we wanted to see. But, you say, Zeke, that we saw them in shambles. But for me, this late high ground take, dropping down to grab some refreshes, yes, there was an unfortunate elimination onto Scare, but Osid played that high ground so well as a solo Vivid.
Osid and Scare said, hold up, Liam and Jace, you guys are on to something with that little bit of a late high ground take. They copied it straight from their playbook, instilled it in game number 2, and it worked out perfectly for them. And honestly, even after watching grand finals this weekend, I feel like we didn't really see that many heal offs, or it didn't really feel like there was plenty of them. So to see a heal off early on in this competition just kind of speaks to how crazy this competition is right now and how bad some of these teams really want it.
Yeah, man. I mean, typically we don't see it come to that often. So these players are taking this extremely serious, right? This second chance means everything right here, right now. That was game number 2. We still have 4 more games to go before we say goodbye. So for now, a break. When we return, game 3 will be ready shortly. So don't you go anywhere. We'll see you right after this.
Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive.
2 teammates have his back. Where's Nash? Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting up Vanya. 3v1.
I'm popping med bit. Wait, choke. I got 6 builds. No, max up. Wait, if you have med play. 100! 100! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
And I don't know how to feel about it.
You're not used to losing. Getting beaten?
Not like this. These players are just so locked in.
Could it be the milk? It's okay. Stay there.
Welcome back, Fortnite fam, to the second chance qualifier. Game number 2 going to Scare and Osid. Big momentum for them, and we still have 4 games left to go. Of course, in first place is not Scaranosid, though. It's actually Liam and Jace that are leading by 30 points. Kelly, Viv, Liam and Jace in just the first 2 games. First place, 8 elims. In this last game, second place with 2 elims. They are kind of keeping that consistency alive right now as far as placement is concerned. Obviously, in this last game, you know, we kind of wish we'd maybe had a little more points in terms of eliminations, but a second place is still mega points.
I mean, you say that, but why? They're in first place right now. Whatever they're doing,
true.
they need to keep doing it. I mean, eliminations definitely is important and definitely one of the win conditions for some of our players. But I don't think that's the case for Liam and Jason. When you look at their history, Liam has 5 FNCS Finals appearances and Jace has 0. So again, one of those players that could potentially be going to Dusseldorf without ever playing a Grand Finals would be absolutely wild, Vivid.
Yeah, it would be awesome to kind of see that. We did talk a little bit about predictions for what we think the point threshold is going to be for top 7. I think we kind of guessed around 260 here on NA, which would be kind of similar to EU. These guys are already on 160 points, and we have only played 2 games, which means that if that prediction comes through, they only need 100 points over the course of the next 4 games. So they are off to a splendid start.
Oh, man, that's what I like to hear, Vivian. Give me more stats like that. Let's bring up those standings again as we continue to talk about more duos who performed well in this last game. Shadow and Virgo, we saw them there for a moment. 3rd place in this last game. We got an 8th place with 5 elims, right? So again, it's not super high placement, but we are picking up eliminations. We just got to string these consistencies together, right, Kelly? And if Vivid, if what he said is true, this is another duo that isn't really that far away from qualifying. If those numbers are true.
I mean, this is definitely a bit more of a return to form that we saw from Shadow and Virgo compared to game number 1, where we did see them grab a few mid-game eliminations and then convert that into a good low ground end game, but unfortunately did not have the game that they wanted to go. If I'm not mistaken, one of them actually ended up going to a solo. It was actually Virgo who was trying to go up from the backside of Storm to steal height, but went down really quickly. It was actually Shadow that did that, but Virgo did end up eventually going down as well. So I love the play there. It looked like they were a little bit more confident, Vivid, which is what we want to see out of them, but just a tiny little misstep on when to steal height there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the name of the game today over the course of these 6 games is just going to be consistency. And I think a 3rd and an 8th puts them right where they want to be. They're definitely on track. I mean, you can't complain with them being in 3rd place right now. So Shadow and Virgo, even though we haven't really seen them have that pop-off high elim game that we were kind of talking about expecting them to have, they're still doing very, very well. So be on the lookout for that high elim game, because when that does happen, if it does, they're going to fly at the leaderboard.
I like it. I like the Vivid predictions. There was also something interesting that happened at the start of this last game that involved a door. Kelly Link, can you walk us through that, please?
Well, it looked like Curly and Rise were kind of having a little bit of a difficult start to their game right there. Curly was actually knocked, but you know, when you're knocked, it doesn't mean that it's over just yet. With this new mechanic of being down, he's able to kind of flip-flop over to this door right here and be a little bit of a bait. If we're talking about fish, well, I think of bait, Vivid. And what is better than getting a refresh, an early elimination onto someone like Curly? Well, how about I stop you right there, Kiffy? No, you are going to get eliminated by Curly, who is down. Unfortunately, doesn't get the elim, but what a great play.
Hook, line, and sinker. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't sure that it was possible that you could knock somebody while you are knocked yourself, but that's what I'm talking about. NAC always delivers, always teaching us things over here.
We really do have it all. With that being said, game number 3 is ready for us. Let's hop back into all of the action with our casters. Take it away.
I've never been more thankful for our analyst and Zeke to really unsolved mysteries here. We were figuring out, how did Curly get the elim? How did that guy go down? Was it a disconnect because the elim didn't go to the other team? But our mystery has been solved.
Yeah, that was crazy. I couldn't have guessed it was the door. Dude, I was just laughing in my head like, he definitely had a power outage, but we were so wrong. It was even more epic than that. You know what? That might be the elim of the year. I know we talked about clutches and all that stuff, but that surely was super impressive.
Yep, and as this one continues to shake down, man, top 7 getting even more interesting. 98 points, looks like it's the line after 2 games, and we're coming up on game number 3, Monster. It's not the halfway point until it's over, but it's a pivotal point in the entire tournament because how you get to play is dictated by where you stand on the leaderboard.
Yeah, and looking at the leaderboard, that top 7 right now is definitely shaping up with teams that we expect to be there. So the experience are starting to heat up, and it sounds like the battle bus is ready. So let's do it one more time.
We have big names inside of that bubble, Monster. We have big names outside of that bubble. These teams were given a second chance here to qualify for the Major 1 Summit. And these teams that qualify today, not only on this region NA Central, but everyone throughout the day will go directly to day 2, waiting for 25 of those teams after day 1. And those will be the teams we see. Bucky, Zen, could they be one of them? So far, they split this drop spot in game number 1, Monster. In game number 2, they took the fight to Kicks and their opponent to get those eliminations, which honestly helped them a bunch. We really saw the difference in how their Storm Surge was and how they were able to play out the rest of that game. They went for high ground in both of those games. It didn't necessarily work out for them, but our team, honestly, Monster, Bucky, and Zen, I think they're going to go for high ground every single game they get a chance to.
Yeah, I don't blame them. They're earning points. You know, they haven't been able to convert it into a win. But one thing's for certain, if you play Ultimate Height like that and you know you're going to gas out of material, one thing's for certain is that you are going to earn placement points. And I think they're content with that because top 7 is pretty gracious, right? If you can keep making end games and finding eliminations. That was really interesting, though. For Bucky, I just noticed that they didn't actually force the fight in the early game, so this might affect their surge. You saw how it affected them game 1. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. Rising Curly, though, obviously they have a single elimination here, so probably swatting someone out the sky before he end up touching down. Let's see what's happening on the other side of the map for Skittles. Cam, nice little clutch for him there. Finds 2 eliminations.
Big Elim there. You're kind of seeing, depending on the bus path for a drop like this, it really shows, do you land at the actual building? Do you land at the mountain towards the north? And because they landed at the mountain towards the north, you guys saw it a second ago, you see it in the mini-map, that allows for the other team contesting this spot to try to lurk in. And now Skittles, oh my gosh, going left instead of right. Those little differences. Again, Cam doesn't even know what he just escaped by going out the door instead of looting the rest of that building.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. Just turns the corner, 2 skeletons or boxes on their heads jump out of nowhere, just ready to catch you. Well, for Volts, I'm sure they're regretting not opening fire when they had the chance to. Either way, though, Skittle and Cam are very much situated right now as one of the teams that will be making it to top 7 if they can remain as consistent as they have been. So better for them that they weren't caught early now here at the Battlewood Boulevard.
I got to agree with that because even though they do have those 2 eliminations, they were early game eliminations. So the maximum amount of surge they could possibly have here is about 200, maybe a little bit more if they found minis, bandages, or anything like that. But I don't think that was the case. So for Skittles, for Cam here, 1 big shot, even if they get the elimination here on the Volts and his teammate down below, could change the course of their game in terms of Storm Surge. See how that one continues to play out. But as one fight's slow, Monster, we know not every fight like that is going to be the case. We tune in and instantly it looks like Mopping and Max's go down.
Big eliminations there. Kale, Saf set themselves up for a big game ahead of them now. These are quick elims too. Look at all the loot they get to sit on right now. Big damage. And the zone pretty much on their side. So talk about finding a key opportunity to try to come back in the tournament. This is your chance to do so.
Seeing a few teams here that need to come back. Some need a little bit more of a comeback than others. But, you know, as Josh was clutching up, I was talking about the 18th place Josh and Yamzo had in game number 1. They only had 2 eliminations, so they really didn't have those points to make up for it. But Josh by himself clutches out a 5th place, 4 eliminations to really put them in contention. Skillers and Cam, they returned back to the scene of the crime, and it doesn't even look like Volts and them really were able to get much loot. They were lurking around, hoping that Skittles and Cam made a mistake, but they came back, and they made no mistakes. They get 2 more eliminations, 100 damage off of Cam, but overall, with 4 eliminations, they have to be sitting pretty. 2 more possibly along the way as Dragon and Creon hear the noise, and they third party.
I mean, this is kind of crazy because Dragon and Creon haven't successfully earned points just yet, so this is a pretty big fight right now that they're trying to set themselves up for. Seems like they see all the wild builds coming out and they don't want to stick around too much longer there, but that could have went really bad. Take a look at this one more time from Skittles' perspective. Just gets jumped on like we knew would happen, but his reaction speed was super fast. He escapes out of there.
Yeah, I like the opportunity that they took. Just got to be able to at least get the elimination, play with the numbers afterwards. But for Skittles and Cam, got to be looking good. 4 elims in the early game. Keys and Diego. This is a team that we saw last game go down to Surge. And it's really telling when you're below that threshold, when you kind of lose control over your game, depending on how desperate you kind of go from there. For Diego and Keys, they were forced into a desperate situation, having to bum rush into the open onto the first team that they saw. So this time around, they continue to take damage. They just need to find a way out of it. Down goes the Mist to try to go ahead and get the shield back up. In play, Diego's taking charge, trying to hold on to their builds. Out goes the Pizza. That's Foxy, that's Kugo that they got taken shot from. Jason Liam as well. So Dark Dominion may not have started as contested as it is, but as time passes, more and more teams rotate on over.
Yeah, Jason Liam listening to all this go down, but then all of a sudden they become the targets of a fight. Jace almost caught and boxed up like a fish, but he manages to slide out the side. Liam's putting up an excellent defense here. He actually drops Ishu with a huge shotgun shot there, and all of a sudden they turn the entire table around, and it's their team who's now on the offense here. Ishu tries to crawl away, but it's not going to be enough.
That's a heartbreaking moment right there, because it was looking so good. It was looking so good for G-Money and Ishu. They were third-partying, crashing in, trying to get some damage, but it just did not work out. Jason Liam able to turn that one around, and that's big. It just goes to show that Jason Liam not going down without a fight. 161 points coming into this game. They were first on the consistency leaderboard. They have a win already. They have 5 average eliminations per game and an average placing of 1.5. So they honestly, Vivid said it, they need to do the bare minimum to really close out the day. So going down there would have started the pressure cooker.
I mean, look, one thing's, we're seeing right now is that they're playing exceptionally well, Getting a win is, okay, you could chalk it up to luck, then getting second place, then clutching a fight like that when you're boxed up and they have piece control over you, and you still turn that entire situation around. I mean, they're playing absurdly well right now. And this is all still happening, by the way, at the Dark Dominion. If you just glance over at the map, you can see how many teams are here, all of which are essentially in their little own skirmishes against themselves. Keys and Diego have the bit of the high ground here over Fogsy and Kugo, but no one's giving this up without a real fight to the end.
Yeah, as you sitting there talking about the amount of teams, I can see 4 teams, it looks like, directly in Dark Dominion. Another 4 teams on the outskirts. So if you find a way to survive this, it's still not going to be easy rotating on out, especially if your primary source of rotation is going to be those shockwaves. Once you're flying through the open, kind of leaves you susceptible to taking damage. And I think Diego and Keys kind of know, going up out of Dark Dominion, especially with how much time it's actually taken, it's going to be hard. Especially with more and more teams lurking around. Northern, Caliper, they're here as well. They're already underneath, trying to catch anybody off guard. And that's why you see them lurking around. Northern trying to minimize the audio visuals that he's given up, because there's danger around every single one of these corners. The shining moment for a lot of these teams, though, Monster, is it is in zone, so they don't necessarily have to move just yet.
A little concerned, though. I saw Shadow and Virgo just showing up, taking a bit of high ground there. Obviously, again, with how well Liam is playing, could see a clash between the top 7 teams going head-to-head. For Kale, Savs, they're continuing their dominance. Another set of eliminations here. Already at 12 points here. Came in with nothing. Earning more and more.
And usually going down, when you get the reboot card, you reboot your teammate, you didn't necessarily have to worry about Surge, because when you got rebooted, it kind of cleared it. A clean slate, it restarts. As of a couple of weeks ago, watching, Ozzy stream, we kind of learned that that's no longer the case. Today, we figured out that when you go down, get rebooted, all your Surge remains the same. So if it wasn't bad losing your teammate, getting a max pull across the map, it actually does get a little bit worse, and it kind of forces these players to instantly start to get proactive of how they're going to make up that Storm Surge gap. For Rise and Curly, they're going to be one of those teams that doesn't necessarily have to worry about it. They got 2 eliminations. It's about how they're going to get the zone without taking too many shots.
Yeah, no one should get comfortable with that, though. Obviously, I feel like the most experienced are conditioned to just play it out. Never lose your teammate. Assassin kill, though. Look at this aggression here. And I like this a lot because they need to make up the points. And it's 4 points for the eliminations, right? So this really does start to rack up. We already know the significance of getting these elims here.
I like the way you say that too, because usually, I wait till game 3 is over. I wait for the halfway point, see where they're at in the leaderboard. I'm like, okay, this team has to get aggressive. This team needs to do the bare minimum. Well, this team might need just 1 win. Why wait until the halfway point? Give yourself a realistic chance. If they can somehow, in this game, pull up a 10 elimination victory royale, that'll be at least 100 points. It'll definitely bolster their chances and probability to making it into the Summit land. But for Jibes, Causers has already went down. He has to wait. He has to wait for that team to rotate on out to give himself a good opportunity to get that reboot card and get his team back into the game. The zone is forcing that team away, so there will be ample time to make that be the case.
Things are heating up now, though. Surge is going to start giving the players their warnings here. Zifta, 300 above. 20 in help on the other side. A team that is in the qualification range right now. He fell short just in that last game, kind of getting stuck here at that 68 points. Small mistake right there on the shockwave, but it's not going to be the end of the world. It's kind of interesting, though, for them to be disengaging right now, even though they're not exactly the safest from the Surge line. Threats and Veer continuing to have that issue as well. You haven't been dominant in damage, but overall they've been better after game number 1. Look at Kale and Savs. They keep keying everything. This is crazy.
That's another on the issue as well. So for G-Money, he already got the guy back up once. He's going to have to do it again. He does look like Kale and Saps were looking to rotate on out, but G-Money gives up those audio visuals. He's able to get the reboot card, probably necessary because you see he only has 200 gold, so he will not be able to purchase it as he's sitting right back up. Does look like he's going to try to get the reboot, but for Saps and Kale, they realize the zone is pulling further and further away. When we were watching Threads, we saw he was like at the edge of zones over towards Scribbly, and we're already in the 5th. So it's going to be 2 tick of damage per second you stay in the storm. And if they're here when the 6th zone pops, it's going to be 5 damage.
Oh, look at that. That timing, though, is because the reboot van went off right as they were going to that blob just to make the rotates. Just ends up working out. Good timing. You have Cam and Skittler. Little high ground position here. 4 elims. We saw them get those early elims off their drop spot. Clearly it's paid into their benefit now. You have some decent damage. Bucky and Zen on the other side. How's it looking for the boys? Keeping it interesting for us as they continue to fight bright. Ooh, pressure's on, though. It's cost them a lot of heals here. So clearly the rotates not the cleanest.
Yeah, like I said, 3 different zones so far. That's got to be a blessing. One going all the way towards the south for the eastern lean. Last game we had the north. This time we got a little bit towards the southwest. Zen and Bucky again, 200 above the damage threshold, but you see empty item slots, far pulls. Bucky getting dropped down to 28 HP. And as the next zone does appear, you see the Storm Surge threshold. They're now 240 below. They're going to end up on the stack side of the zone, so there is going to be chances, but those chances are going to come with its own risk.
Yeah, I like what they did, though, using the shockwaves to get up and over the mountain to save as much material as possible. I mean, they're already light, but you just have this team on height right here with a perfect view down. They have to do something about this, either contest them or something, but you can't keep letting them shoot for free like this.
You already see a team of the third party too as they inch closer and closer to Mason and Aiden. In the distance, they see it. They could try to fire shots in that direction. Even if they bleed shot through, that is success for other teams in this lobby. But Bucky and Zen, they are on a clock. Aiden and Mason on the other side, they're 566 above the damage threshold. They don't need this fight, but they might not necessarily have a choice because now Storm Surge is active. Every 7 seconds, 25 damage. Bucky and Zen are on a clock, but there goes a good beam coming out from Bucky, but they're still below that threshold.
That was a sick lineup right there, but couldn't get enough damage. Just 130 below now. They still have overdrives. Into the box they go. And they're fully committing here onto Mason. Just missing one of the more important shots, but they get the follow-up there. And all of a sudden now they are back in the game and they catch Mason before he can actually stop and heal. So they will also get rewarded with a pizza box to talk about the most optimal loot you could have found in this situation here.
It's just unfortunate for Bucky and Zen. Another far pull does not get any easier. They instantly have to open up, Shockwave out. You see when it comes to the heals, they're at the bare minimum. They had to use most of that pizza just to get their HP and shield up for this rotation. Osid, Scare coming off a big win, 139 points so far on that leaderboard, but they're barely above themselves. Yes, 19 players do need to go down. If you have the heals, you can out-heal it, but that's not going to be the case here for Osid and Scare.
Yeah, look at this. The rotate has to come down and over. I like that play. Knows that he can't stay exposed for too long. Still, they got to hunt for much more damage. Meanwhile, they find Bobby here. Straight pieces him up. Oh, no. Even after all that damage they found onto Bobby was not enough to obviously alleviate the full damage of the surge here. Scare's still solo right now, 37 below. Finds Taki in the storm, tries to do the same thing to him. But Taki playing a little bit sharper. The lobby turns in. Down he goes. Taki gets rewarded with the points there, too.
Saber's just tough because even though he does get the elim, the points can clean up the loot, doesn't mean his position's any better. Stuck inside of the zone and a max pull on top of that. For Yamzo and Josh, though, again, back-to-back games where they're over 500 damage above the threshold. They land at the top of the mountain, so they don't have very many off-spawn opportunities. They have to get their damage while rotating all the way down to Riptides. Not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but they're figuring out a way to make it work. Threats as well. You've seen a whole different show from him coming in this game. Instead of down surge, they're 700 above. And you're really seeing a lot of the teams that we saw in either previous games or early on in this one that were in a bad position really picking up the pace. Bucky and Zen, 200 above, and now they have a whole different loadout.
They have not gotten lucky with the zones at all. Look at how many shockwaves they've used time in and time out just to continue to try to get to the safe zone. That's going to be the last of their mobility and pretty much the last of their heals as well here. Zen trying to figure out where is Bucky. Has no clean pathway towards him. Doubles back to his base for now. And each side just going to play this one out as a solo for here. Oh yeah, look, Zen's name way off to the west side here. So they're on two opposite sides right now. It's going to be super important for Zen right now to try to hit these shots here. That's going to keep him in the game. He gets one, though. That's a huge moment of relief here. And even if he falls, even if he can just do enough damage for Bucky, that's going to be the difference that's going to allow Bucky to have some time to build a runway for himself. 7 players have to fall now. This is crazy.
Brings a whole new meaning to living life on the edge right now. 9 HP, peaks on over. Good damage as well. Just really needs an elimination here for the Siphon or to find a pile of loot that somebody did left behind. That one's going to be an harder case. Rise, Curly, 1,200 damage above the threshold. Curly having 3 eliminations here, and we're now in the top 23, which means placement points with every team that does go down are going to fly in at a rapid pace. But for Curly and Rise, they kind of got blessed a little bit on this rotation. Multiple teams going to have to use those shockwaves to get up and over them, including Bucky, who loses Zen along the way. So there's a lot of pressure on him to perform. They made up for their blunders in game 1 with a Zen clutch, but now Bucky's going to have to share that role.
Yeah, you can see the pressure starting to kick in there. A couple missed edits, missed builds for Bucky. Virgo left to clutch this one up by himself as well. I saw Shadow fall there. Zen's down, Bucky's down now. They're gonna finish just outside the big placement points here. 22nd for them. Virgo playing the cone here. He still has plenty to work with. He's in a much better position to try to clutch this one up. Golden and Ozone, this is the second time now they've actually gone for height. This time, they're actually successful up top. They're at 112 points. Keep in mind, with Scare and Osid out the game, too, that's the second place coming into this is down and out. So that's going to start crunching down the numbers on the standings here.
Second out of the game, 4th place separated, 5th place having struggles. Yeah, Amto's down again. You said it yourself. So Josh, outside of the top 20, forced to have back-to-back games with a solo clutch. New player for Elite Esports, and really now it's just time to earn that respect that you deserve. Virgo as well, flying through 3rd place on the leaderboard. Big shots going to land, but not enough to actually get the elimination. But he's not getting greedy here, Monster. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, you know, other players would stay there, try to go toe-to-toe and take the fight, but he wants to play some points. He's trying to play a smart. Eoxy dips into the storm, trying to do the same thing. Liam is just looking to stay alive right now. Liam is clutching up game after game. He did it last round. He's doing it once again. Little zone on his side here to go ahead and push him right back into the other side, but a team's on the other side of the wall. This is going to be a hard one to stay alive with, but these builds, most of them are his. How much more does he have to work with? No, stuck in the middle. Down he goes, top 15. Josh is in the same position now, 2 teams right above him.
Cam's going for height. Skittles going for a height
Oh
with
my
gold and it
gosh.
O-zones for a little bit until Cam slams him out of the lobby, gets the elimination, and now they've taken the high ground. 154 points in counting. They have 8 eliminations here. I'm not sure how many teams down below are going to be brave enough to try to contest up above. You see Rise, you see Dragon. Virgo finally goes down. He was a solo. That's Chimp and Liam who actually clean up that elimination. Craze gets one as well, but Josh is still running wild. 44 HP. He has a dream right now, Monster, and he is dreaming big. Hopefully it doesn't become a nightmare, but he continues to go up different layers here. That's going to put him in the limelight for high ground. Instantly gets shot back down low. He has to hide behind this build. That's a whole nother team on the other side, but nobody's peeking. Josh finds recycled builds that is his own. A big shot on Aox, but it gets stolen.
No.
Skittles steals away the elim.
Oh my gosh, that would have been the most important elim for him, but look at this. Josh does end up getting some late siphon there from something else. Either way, Josh is making the biggest plays of his career right now. This is going to potentially send him to land. You know, it's the difference right now, clutching up in moments like this when you have such a long way to go. All these teams are jumping in with have a monstrous amount of elims, though. This is going to shake up the standings through to the end. 180 points now for Cam and Skittles. They have jumped themselves into a whole new atmosphere here, and they still have a lot left in the tank.
Yeah, and this is after this one's over. It's going to be the halfway point, so you got to be smiling ear to ear, knowing that you have a little bit more control over your destiny. Scam dropping all the extra heals to Skittles, saying, hey, if this comes down to a heal off, you are going to be the guy. You've taken less storm damage, or hopefully they calculated correctly, so Cam will be the one to drop down low, play Disruptor if it does come down to it. Craze and King also underneath, but they're that ultimate low team, and they have some extra build. They're kind of hoping and praying that this zone doesn't pull them over a mountain.
That's kind of crazy, you know. Coming into this game, we saw Dragon with no eliminations, no points, nothing earned. All of a sudden now he finds himself inside the top 5. This is the kind of performance you are looking for. This is the one that you're hoping you can find for the next couple of games to send yourself to the land. Corvina jumps in, unfortunately couldn't quite get it. It's Cam and Skittles. Their timing is just too good right now, and they're tracking right through the builds here. And look, now down to just 5 mats here, finds a down body, wants to get the finish. They get rewarded with that as well. This is easily becoming the biggest game I think we've seen over the course of the last few weeks. Cam's waiting for Dragon to make the edit. Dragon stuck in the box. Cam falls to the storm, and this can actually give this siphon away, so Skittles has to dip off, try to play for the heal off here. Sorry, King there, and Dragon's trying to do the same. Both sides have heals here, Jacob. This can go either way, but it should be Skittles who wins this one here and now, and it will be in the end. Oh, wait a second. Skittles made
you're
it.
right. No, you're
gosh.
right. It all depends on
Okay.
the gold. The King has been there for a while. He's getting storm sickness.
Okay.
The instant elimination comes in. I was doing my math too. I had to calculate everything going on. That feeling of deja vu was there, but Skittles is able to clutch up at the end of the day. That's going to be a big win and a huge boost of confidence.
You have to do what you have to do to get those wins there. And I was thinking to myself, wait, is my math off? Like, both sides are healing now, but Skittles did do enough in the end there. And, you know, these are teams that needed those points. So game 3 now is wraps there, Zeke.
Did I see that right? Did I see a little 12 elimination game pop up here in game number 3 right now? What the heck are we doing here? Oh my gosh, Cam slamming Skittles. What the heck? And they're doing the patented Jacob PR. That's why we're gonna name this the Jacob PR. Pay to win situation there with the vending machines. This is a joke. That's crazy. I cannot believe, and as Jacob himself called out right now, to do that here halfway through, big boost of confidence right now. Dude, 12 elim BR. Kelly, what the heck?
I wonder if the PR stands for payroll. The Jacob payroll right now, it definitely seems to be the play. And there was actually a moment there where we were looking at the high ground team of Cam and Skittles, and they were dropping heals, which is what we typically see when it comes down to the final few teams. But I also saw him drop gold, and I was like, haha, that's funny, what a misclick. But no, it was on purpose that he was dropping gold because they knew that this was probably going to come down to a heal off. But honestly, even beyond the heal off, Cam Slam and Skittles played that high ground steal so well. As we watched it, Vivid was like, he just got slammed. And for me, I was like, oh, they're going to win the game. That's it.
Yeah, he'll also becoming a little bit more prevalent here in the second chance qualifier. And I mean, just big shout out to these guys because it just looked like the Elims couldn't stop here. And you saw Cam there towards the end as well, dropping down, trying to pick up as many Elims as possibly can because he was fully confident in the ability of Skittles to go ahead and win that heal off. Now, no spoilers, but Skittles and Cam came into that game in the 8th place spot. I cannot wait to see how they shook things up with that win right there.
Well, ask and you shall receive it because it's time to look at the standings after this short break.
Oh.
Don't you go
Yeah.
anywhere. Halfway through the See, you already knew what I was doing. We'll be right back. You already knew. You already knew what I was doing. We'll be right back. Bo.
No love songs, just a walk right by. This is my world, watch me arrive. Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive.
Two teammates have his back. Where's Nash? Gets the drop on the Marion. Stays alive. They're targeting up Vanya. Three being on.
I got hit. I'm popping a med bit. Wait, choke. Got 6 builds. No. Wait, if you're mid, wait. 100. 100. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. And I don't know how to feel about it.
You're not used to losing. Getting beaten?
Not like this. These players are just so locked in.
Could it be the milk? Stay there.
Okay, so we're back. That's right. It's time to look at the standings because, as Vivid said right before this break, Skills and Cam got themselves a pretty big W. VR with 12 eliminations. Where do they end? It's at the top of the leaderboard. Up 7 places. Guys, we have 3 more games to go. That, Kelly, could have very well been the run they needed to secure themselves a qualification spot.
It's definitely possible. I think that they probably should earn just a few more points, just in case, you know, just a little bit, because we got 3 more games to go. What's a handful more points, especially if we see another game out of Skittles and Cam like we did from game number 3. But for me, another big jump up right there. We have to talk about King Aling and Craze. We know this as an explosive duo, and they definitely were turning things up on the low ground today.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually see it. I do want to talk about the leaderboard in general. Obviously, our top 2 standers up there, Skittle and Cam, and then Liam and Jace, they've got a pretty surmountable lead. Look how close everything is after we are now halfway through this. 3rd through 10th place is only separated right now by 28 points. So we have an extremely volatile leaderboard here, and one of the duos that's kind of keeping themselves around that 10th place spot. I'm sure they're probably feeling a little bit nervous right now. It's going to be Josh and Iamzo. You can see they did go up 1 place right there. They are going to be in 9th place, but once again, they want to be in that top 7. But it kind of feels like all of these teams that are kind of like 3rd through, I would say, like 11 are so close to top 7 that they're basically top 7 still.
Oof, Josh, though, in another solo clutch situation for game number 3. Definitely not wanting to be here halfway through the tournament right now. The Iamzo and Josh do so well on this mid ground and the low ground when they are able to stay together. But I do have to give Josh props. I'm not quite certain when Iamzo went down, but Josh definitely garnered them a lot of points just by staying alive, playing it really smart, really patiently.
I mean, dude, that's what we got to do, right? Like, every single one of these points matter. And like you called out, Kelly, being halfway through, that's only adding more pressure, right? You got to think like, oh man, if we make a single mistake, this leaderboard, like we call it, that's still so close together. If you fall early, you're gonna have to watch all of them start to continue to get points and move that much further ahead of you. Scary stuff. But as we turn back to those standings, though, as well, wanted to highlight Liam and Jace here. These guys are performing so well. Obviously, the first 2 games had some crazy performances. Even in this game, a top 15 with 2 eliminations. Even managing to, like, piece together a top 15 when you're kind of like, your backs are against the wall, maybe things don't quite go your way. That's a positive sign from the duo. So I'm excited to see them kind of showing, like, hey, even in these high-pressure situations, we can still perform.
No, you're calling it out exactly right. We already saw such great games, a 1st and a 2nd place coming out of them. Right now, they just need to make sure that they're making it to the end game. I don't think that they really need to try and push for another high ground take or a bunch of eliminations. They just need to play some standard Fortnite with 191 points under their belt right now. They would essentially just need around 60, maybe 70 points to be confident to go to Dusseldorf. So Vivid, I definitely think that it is possible for them. But we do also see a lot of jump downs from some of our bigger teams. Scare and Ozid going down 4 placements. Bucky and Zen on that 10th place spot as well. So would love to see some changes. Maybe Bucky and Zen, for me, it definitely seems like I'm watching Clix and Higgs go again from the grand finals. They're taking these early ground high games. And then obviously when they're below Storm and they're struggling a little bit, it just reflects that much more that they're not able to hold high ground and make it all the way to the very end. So I would just love to see a little bit of a change when it comes to Zen and Bucky, maybe not going for high ground early and kind of backing off and going for the mid ground instead.
Yeah, kind of running back their game number 1, right? We kind of tune in with them. They were in 7th or 8th zone. They were below Surge. Kind of the similar story there in game number 3. The only thing that ended up being different was in game 1, they were able to clutch up. They were able to find that damage that they needed. Game number 3, they could not do that. So definitely need to approach Storm Surge maybe a little bit differently so that way they can consistently, find themselves in 7th and 8th zone feeling a little bit more comfortable. And we could probably see them back up one height.
All right, guys, halfway through the competition, 3 games left to go, and we can only continue the dream to the summit if we end in the top 7. Now more than ever, these duos have to make sure they're minimizing these little mistakes or doing everything they can to get every single little point. Here we go. Jacob, MDF, take it away.
I think they're hitting the nail right on the head, Monsters, showing how close the tournament actually is. Vivid said 3rd through 10th place is a mere 38 or so points, and that's where it really gets interesting because we've already seen heats, we've already seen finals positions, we've already seen so much get decided by 4 or less eliminations, and I think today's going to be no different.
Yeah, and the elims are definitely the most important part here. 4 points is nothing to overlook. So with game number 4 here, let's see how it plays out.
Game 4, the second half of the day. If you want to go to the Major 1 Summit land, you have to start to hit the ground running. And this is where this zone, we've already seen 3 so far, 1 towards the north, 1 towards the southeast, and 1 towards the southwest, a little bit towards Squibbly Shores. And this is where if you're one of those teams that gets the zone to pull in your favor, you really have to make those games count. Unless you're Liam and Jace so far, where every game for them is counted.
Well, it's kind of interesting for Liam and Jace. You know, they're in a position I feel like they've never been in before. Late into a tournament, so much on the line as far as their qualification is concerned, and they need to get one big pop-off game. They're still a long way from where they are right now and technically qualifying as great as they look on the standings. So this is going to be a question of can they perform under pressure at this point, as are some of the other teams. You know, when we were looking at that top 10, 7 points is 130. 10th was like 122 or something like that. Like, it was very, very close. So this competition is 2 elims spread between where you are right now and your land spot, right? So there's no one safe right now.
Yeah, essentially from the top 15, one victory royale can kind of put you inside of that bubble. Rise and Curly, they've had some contested off spawns. They've had players lurk their way in. This time around, it is going to be a little bit more uncontested as before. So they're going to be able to loot up. There's a lot of barrels, free shields. They're just on the north side of the map. So hopefully this game maybe continues the trend. If the last 2 have been towards the south, this one hopefully pulls towards the north for a lot of those teams. Bucky and Zen, Sandy Strip. It is going to be contested, and each and every game, you've kind of seen a different way of playing this play out. Game 1, they tried to fight it, they disengaged. Game 2, they fight it, they won. Game 3, they kind of did this same strategy, and they're able to carry them long and far into that last game. It's just Storm Surge. They ended up in a bad position, taking height a little bit too early. It really did cost them everything.
Yeah, definitely cost them a ton that round. Yamzo and Josh made the best that they could with the last game as well. At least they earned themselves some big points. They kind of really fought their way in an uphill battle after kind of failing themselves in game number 1. Talk about that north zone, though. It doesn't get more north than this. Half the zone's in the water. There you have it.
Gotta be careful for the other teams on the mountain. Don't take free shots. Mason and Aiden, 122 points. Don't want to have things slowing down with going down here, but Symbol of Fear is able to get the first drop on the 1. The overstays is welcome, hopping over that cover. He's going to go down, and it does look like Aiden and Mason are going to be able to solidify both of those eliminations. More so Aiden saving the day, but Mason getting some good damage from 122 to 130 thanks to those early game eliminations.
Huge clutch right there to keep them in the game. Massive performance right there. Chris and Drew doing what they do in the early game right now. They have a down body. Goes the finish. His teammate tries to put up some defense there, but just doesn't have enough offense. Let's go ahead and change the circumstance, if you will.
Not necessarily going on the chase just yet. They heard the shockwaves. They saw the direction in which he went in. It's just a matter of they want to go on a wild goose chase for just one elimination, especially since Evan and Pure are both up together. And Evan and Pure is an interesting team. Evan already Central. Pure actually played the latest FNCS on West, getting the second chance, coming on over to Central, and hopefully kind of make it up for it. See how this one continues with 3 games left. Half a tournament. They can easily make up for it, just like CDZ and Raven here, but 28 or so points, they're going to need to get eliminations. Luckily for them, they're not scared of fights. A lot of the times we saw CDZ and Raven, not only in finals, but here today, they're ready to take any fight. It's just about winning those fights that has been the difference.
Yeah, last game was definitely their most successful, so they finally at least got some footing here on the tournament standings, but definitely a long way to go. Ruins and Sin to watch. Not as much of a problem as far as where they are overall positioned here. See the updated standings there. 126 being where Bucky and Zen stand. So Sin and Ruins are just outside of that. Watching from outside the glass here. Looking in.
Just like POI's Monster, those many machines, you see a lot of people fight for them, just like if it was part of their drop. Shadow and Virgo making an early rotation towards the western side of the map. They land just south of Frigid Fortress. And typically they do have a chance. Usually this spot is contested on the outskirts with a lot of teams kind of split up, just trying to take whatever loot that they can. It's a whole different tournament. Almost the entire drop from Taki and Verge Frigid Fortress, the Aoxy and Jojo split drop, to Shadow and Virgo himself, all uncontested. So it's not going to be as easy of a road for them to get their early game search. But whatever they've been doing so far in this tournament, has been working, just like Liam and Jace, but a whole different story here. Start off game 4. Typically, we see them alive into the end game as a duo. This time, there's a lot of pressure on Liam to get his teammate back.
Yeah, we're just highlighting the fact that, hey, you've done well 3 games, but pressure starts to set in right around here. You start looking at how far you still have to go. Enough's never enough. Dragon and Creon, though, from 0 points to 88 really showcases how you can kind of change the entire narrative about the opportunity to make it to land here.
Also, 3rd place with 80 elims as well. If they can honestly close the game out with a couple more 3rd places, maybe a 5th place, a couple more elims, they could literally fight for their spot at the Summit land. And the feed, Raven actually getting a couple eliminations here against Kix. You gotta imagine that contested fight over at Sandy Strip. Kix and Bobby, maybe they got pushed off from Bucky, having to get some scraps elsewhere. Either way, that's gonna be Raven and CDZ getting 4 more points. As it does look like Chimp and 20. They got a long rotation to zone, but they know having that HP is going to be so important, especially with how many lurkers they've been in the zone this season.
This is a good fight to watch right here, because Bucky and Zen need the damage. We already know that they've kind of played this one out a bit more passively than before, but look at this. There's a team lurking here. And Bucky runs past them, and something tells him there might be something up here, and a player jumps out like he expected. That was probably a wall there that he didn't expect to see by the vending machine, and all of a sudden now Zen and Bucky are in a scrappy fight here. Bucky does take some serious damage from CNX and Cormax. Meanwhile, if you look to the north, that team at the Sandy Strip is still listening in.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at the mini-map, seeing if that team was going to try to crash down. If not necessarily to join the fight, but at least try to get some third-party shots coming in, but they're content with where they're at now. Bucky and Zen, they had a chance to heal up, getting more form of this game of trying to continue to fight this one out. CNX, Cormax, they're just trying to disengage, but I don't think Bucky and Zen are going to give them the option, or at least not just yet, especially now so that Zen lands a huge shot onto Cormax, forcing him back, trying to get the build, burn through any damage that he can. And then CNX on the other side, no damage in terms of the fight, but you see what the Storm is actually doing. Very, very low on HP. They literally have no choice but the Shockwave out.
The control here from Bucky and Zen. Even though they could have pushed for those eliminations and they know it, the points are not as important as keeping the damage that they earned right here, because they also recognize that they are very far behind. You know, that was our biggest concern too, is that they were going to need that damage. So they almost even the playing field. Should be coming out positive there off of that exchange. Jumping back in with Osid and Scare though. They kind of had things on lock for a little second, and then last game fell super early to the mid-game surge. They were in 2nd place going into it. They find themselves dropping way down now, kind of back in the middle of the race here. Gurley and Rise on the other side, very much situated here. I'm going to stay in the Storm though, trying to see if they find any late rotators.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if they were that team, because we saw one team kind of rotating outside of Sandy, so we know there's at least 3 teams there. I'm sure they got the information because they rotated down from Painted Palm, so instead of going directly to a stacked edge of the zone, they're just trying to wait for any of these stragglers to make a mistake. Jojo Fishy and Aoxy, another team from that Frigid Fortress side of the map, kind of split drop just towards the left in between Wonky and the actual Frigid Fortress. They wasted no time at all rotating over towards this Wonky wheel, because now they got options. No matter where it pulls, a far pull towards the south, they can use that wheel to rotate the slow side of zone, maybe ride it towards the shoreline and try to find their way in. But just like them, so many other teams are making that a part of their strategy, or potentially making it a part.
And it's worth mentioning, this is the first full zone that we've seen start heading towards the north, right? So we are and should see some different teams kind of making an end game, catching us a little bit of relief. But here's one that's not. CDZ just gets pressured down by Zen. Zen's just playing exceptional right now when it comes to these fights. Look at the shot that he lands there onto Raven as well. So everything's starting to connect together for them. Not even sure they know that CDZ actually fell to the Storm right there. They're probably trying to kind of download this situation and assess it. They're going to find out here shortly if they get this Elam though.
Yeah, Raven, he wasn't able to position himself elsewhere. Tries to go for a 1v1, but He's just getting surrounded by Bucky and Zen. Options getting closed off. Zen just continuously pressured from one side. Bucky as well. Neither one of them overstepping either. Not giving up any easy shots. On over to Raven. There goes the elimination. Finally being cleaned up by Zen. Bucky as well gets that elimination onto Raven. I got to imagine they did a good job getting a good amount of damage on both of those players, but you see how long the fight took. You see Bucky taking a shot there right before it actually ended. So not sure where they stand overall in terms of Storm Surge. But back on over to Wonky Land, where two teams that didn't even land here rotate in, trying to make Wonky Land a part of their own. And you're seeing JoJo, Fishy, and Aoxy as the dust settles. Storm Surge turns on. One team over 600 above, another team 300 below.
Yeah, and counting. It's getting worse here, so JoJo, Aox, you're going to have to fight this one tooth and nail through to the end, but JoJo, a little too aggressive, a little oblivious to the fact that Electra was on the other side, and man, they make that look so easy, and they get rewarded with incredible amounts of loot here with how fast this elimination went through.
Now if they have the gold, it'd almost be like they didn't take a fight at all. A lot of extra heals, good position inside of the zone. See how Electro and Ult fare in this game. They actually need a decent game here. It's the second half of the day. The leaderboard kind of play in their hand about how they get to rotate around this map. 29th place, 42 points so far. They did out of a 10th place in game number 1, just haven't been able to kind of recreate that same scenario. Lightning Flex within contention, Scare and O-Sid inside of the bubble as well. 6th place coming into this game. You talked about their fall from grace, but this is a team where I feel like they've seen it all. They played against the best. They've been a part of some of the most stacked lobbies this season, almost qualifying for the Reload Elite Series as well. So I think they're just one good push, one good game away from clinching their spot.
Most definitely. And talking about that, look at the zone pulling right over the Wonky Land. So now Electro and Oak actually can opt to just eat zone all the way. They have the mending machine. They have all that excess loot. Just doesn't get better for them. Golden, Ozone on the other side, fighting their way into a position right now. They don't want to play in the low ground here, so they're trying to get up and over onto a little bit of terrain here.
This is where we could have potentially interesting zone. You know what I mean? If it goes a little bit more towards the south, but you see the trees that are currently in play, a good portion of those big trees have a huge amount of health. And one thing that we've seen already this season is teams like to go up to the high ground. They attach themselves not to one, but multiple of those trees. Because even if you break the tree itself, Monster, you actually have to break the build that was attached to the tree afterwards before it actually falls. So now imagine connecting to 2, 3, maybe 4 of those trees on high ground throughout the end game. It almost makes it indestructible.
Yeah, we can see some really interesting positioning get set up here. Kingling and Craze right now, 282 above, no points earned this game, but they're sitting pretty at 154. Everything's starting to fall in place for this team here. Still though, 75 players standing in this game right now. King looking to break the tree, trying to open up their sight lines here to see if they can catch anyone trying to exit across, shockwave out, come the next move. Depending on where the zone goes, it's going to be a very difficult zone to navigate. It's a pretty steep cliff here.
You talked about that cliff. My eyes were locked in. I was actually getting the seatbelt ready to buckle, but we barely dodged having to go up that cliff. We're going towards the northwestern part of the map overall. Not too many drastic changes in terms of elevation. If we cut back, maybe we'll start that conversation. But as we tune into Zen and Bucky, well, I mean just Zen because Bucky is down. 35 teams still up, so far away from even the first placement point starting to set in. Then you add in the fact they're only 103 above the damage threshold. So a lot of those early game fights, sometimes it works out for you, sometimes not so much. Skittles and Clam, winners of that last game. A whole different road for them this time around, 5 below the damage threshold. It might not be much, but you're gonna have to fight for it just like that. And now other teams taking notice. You fall 100 below the damage threshold, and a whole other team starts to rotate in 20 and chip. They want a piece of that pie.
That was a huge shot from Cam right there. Talk about having the awareness to not only turn on the team that dives on his teammate, but then find 20. He was late to rotate in. That's going to be the difference maker that keeps him in the game. And they get rewarded with at least a couple of heals and some mats to work with, but have to eat the rest of this pizza here. It's going to be a trade-off before they get going. Just scavenging the land right now, trying to see if Zen actually successfully made the rotate here. This is crazy. The amount of points he's been clutching up by himself the last 2 rounds alone. Recommendable. Rising Curly, though, trying to make up for lost time. They've had a lot of bad games. Give it a second, though. Back to Skittles at 217 right now. 180 below. Make it 130 as he finds a couple tags here. Still has shockwaves to work with. Sees that there's a player in the zone. Jumps down and over. Definitely willing to go all in for this one. No. I would have thought he'd go to finish it and go for the siphon, but the play to go for the pizza instead ends up costing him everything.
Fumbles that opportunity there, and I kind of see what he was going through in his mind, because even if he does get the knock, there's 1 or 2 seconds there where you have the invulnerability, can't clean up the elimination, but those are the tight decisions that really cost you at the end of the day. Yamzo Josh, we know what Josh has been doing so far. Big clutch moments for him, especially after the 18th place, 2 eliminations. They were outside of the bubble. They pushed themselves closer and closer each and every one of the games. 5th and 8th place, 4 and 2 eliminations here. They just have to figure out a way to stay alive together to these end games. You know, with high ground not being as contested as we've seen in some of these finals games of the past, I think that mid ground is so much more contested that I think a lot of players have thought going into this game. But Rise is down, Curly's now stuck by himself, burning through his materials and below the damage threshold. G-Money is going to be down, so with only a few seconds left, he tries to go in and get the Elim, but gets taken down by threats instead.
Yeah, now it looks like Osid and Scare might be the ones trying to set up for height right here. Meanwhile, Jason Liam still alive right now. How did they do it? 400 damage above, 4 eliminations. They are just playing perfect Fortnite right now, as they are completely dialed in. You know, this game was almost, it almost slipped out of their fingers early on, but now they've managed to kind of get their grasp back on the lobby. And if they can just earn 60 points here, they will be essentially a shoo-in for top 17 only after basically playing 4 flawless games. That is just so impressive. But still, though, 26 teams remaining in the lobby. Osid, Scare, talked about them being one of the few teams trying to poise up for a little bit of high ground here. They're still kind of in that mid-ground layer. Yamzo and Josh, we haven't seen better. This is the best we've seen them in the end game. They are due for a monster game together. And then here, Jacob, look at this. Kinglin and Curve.
I'm just working together. Instead of using the shockwave to just bounce from one point to another, they safely use it in the box. All they want is the effect to kind of sprint towards the outside, take a little bit of damage, a worthwhile sacrifice, because now they got good positioning inside of the zone. Shadow and Virgo, they take the different approach. They're going to take the shockwave, find themselves a little crevice inside of the zone that they can go ahead and start to chop down and take control of. Osid, Scare, we saw them rotate to the front side overall. They're the team that is attaching to those trees. So even though they haven't emerged as the kings of the castle just yet, they're the first team looking to try to take height. Craze goes down. King gets left by himself. Luckily for him, though, he has a couple of fake pots. He has the Fizz, and he has full shielded HP for the most part.
So impressive, because that's one of the teams that, again, disbanded, kind of came together based off a duo splitting apart, and they're actually on their way. The first, Jace has got to earn a little bit more. We talked about it. Can he just push his way for 50 or so more points and essentially solidify himself a top 17? Meanwhile, Caliper, Northern, they've slowly earned a little bit by bit, point after point, and now they have the ultimate high ground here. So we'll see if they can do something big right now, as they have a lot of ammunition in the tank, plenty of builds to work with too, and there's just players everywhere. You talk about connecting to those trees, and they've done just that.
Yeah, you need to chop the trees and then the builds, and they're super connected, so it's not going to be easy. Shadow knows that same thing, but a whole different position, forced outside of the zone, scrambling around. That shockwave going to use. He finds his way in. He still has a little bit left on the Chug Jug, but not really enough to make the difference, so he needs an elimination, a siphon, anything he can get his hands on. King as well. He's taking tick after tick of the zone until he finally makes his way in. Shadow finds the knock, but not the elimination just yet. Has to peek outward to make that one become a possibility. The siphon keeping him alive allows him to dive into the zone, get those materials, and that is the difference maker in a game like this before Shadow finally goes down about 13th place. King follows. A lot of our solos being wiped out of this game.
Yeah, King lost track. He was playing so aggressively. Meanwhile, Caliper actually picks up Northern, who fell just moments ago. So they are back in this game. What looked like should have been an easy win for them. Now it's starting to slip away. Once again, Northern falls there too. And Caliper has to play this one out by himself. He's only got 6 bills to work with. The Yamzo and Josh, we said they were due, and high ground is now theirs. And they haven't done it in any kind of fast fashion. They've really taken their time here, as they only have a single Elim.
Yeah, which is surprising too. They're playing on the high ground. Typically, it's a team that dominates the mid layers. They dominate those low ground layers, but nobody's going to be up above to stop them. So now they're going to be the kings on top of the castle, putting pressure down below, connecting to these trees, almost an indestructible layer. With a couple more eliminations, Chris is going to fall. They had their eyes set on the Scare and Osid, but they're mirroring that high ground, so it's not going to be easy to put down that pressure as they slide outside of the zone. Those are the opportunities Josh and Yamzo are looking for. Osid picks up one. The elimination, the Siphon here is keeping them alive. Monster, we're down to our final 4 teams, and all of them are healthy and alive up until now.
And Threats and Veer are back too. They needed these points. Veer tries to go up, but he gets hit by a wood wall, and Josh tries to do the same. He's thinking about going down, but he doesn't want to do anything too risky. And there's Veer in the storm. Veer might have gotten a knock, but it's all up to Josh and Yamzo here. They're healthy. They're in the game. They have a lot of time on the storm. There's no way Osid's going to be able to do anything big here. And just like that, Yamzo and Josh clap back.
Yeah, each and every single game for Yamzo and Josh getting better and better and better. This time around, they got to make it to the end game as a duo. They looked up, they saw height was clear, they took it and did not look back. They were outside of that bubble, Monster, before this game had started. And with a victory royale, you have to expect them in the top 7, Zeke.
This is it. This is it. Zoe's back, baby. He's back, baby. We're finally coming online. Okay, we're finally here. We got ourselves a victory royale with 5 eliminations. Yamzo and Josh. It's okay. I believed the whole time. I never not believed. Let's go. Kelly, right now, this is it. Momentum. We have been instilling confidence. We have gas in the tank. We're looking good.
I feel like you're being a little biased, and I'm wondering if that's the guilt from jinxing them early on, but they deserve all the bias. Josh and Yamzo finally locking in and showing us why we expected them to do so well today in the finals for the second chance tournament. Running the mid-low ground, staying to the front of low zone once we did get towards the end game, allowed them to kind of transfer their focus onto height eventually, and then of course it just went the way it did. Getting that victory royale is what I wanted to see out of the Vivid.
Absolutely. And if you're kind of paying attention throughout that end game, a bunch of our top teams, the top 3, in fact, right?
Yeah.
They went down earlier. They had kind of solos in the mix right there. So this is definitely a big opportunity here for Yamzo and Josh to kind of even the playing field. Of course, stories will be told when we do take a look at that leaderboard. But Jacob and MDF, they called it out perfectly. Usually dominating the low ground, the mid ground right there, changing it up a little bit here in game number 4. They find themselves on the height and with a win in dominant fashion. So we might have to look towards the high ground if we want to find Yamzo and Josh for the rest of these games.
Viv, we entered that game in 9th place. We were sitting in a situation, we were tied with 20 at 128 points.
Okay,
8th place
okay.
ahead of us, right? We were tied, and now after that victory, we're looking at 200 points. What we need to do now, break time. When we return, the standings. Don't you go anywhere. You're gonna want to see this. Don't you go anywhere. Don't you? Hey, don't go anywhere. Don't do it. Don't.
No love songs, just a war cry vibe. This is my world, watch me arrive. Watch me arrive.
100. I got healed. No, I'm popping in that bit. Wait, short. Got 6 builds. No, max up.
Wait, if you're mid, wait.
100. 100. Oh my god. Look. Oh my god. Oh my god. And I don't know how to feel about it.
You're not used to losing. Getting beaten?
Not like this. These players are just so locked in.
Could it be the milk? Stay there.
Don't go anywhere. Don't. Did you go somewhere? Did you go? Did you leave? Did you go? Did you leave? I saw you. I saw you leave. I saw it. Anyway, welcome back to the FNCS second chance opportunity for all these duos. Iamzo, Josh, get a victory royale. Clutch moment. Clutch timing right here, right now. Let's take a look at the leaderboard right now. So, remember, we got ourselves some points in that last game. 213 is where we ended. So 4th place, up 5 full placement spots. Currently sitting in 4th place. Shout outs to Josh. Shout outs to Iamzo. Now, the job is not done, right, Kelly? We still need to put some pieces together because the competition is still pretty tight. We're looking at a top 7. Kelly, 7th place, Golden Ozone at 184. That's still too close for comfort.
Oh, 100%, especially if you look down all the way to the 13th place, which is 126 points. That right there is definitely within reach, especially with having 2 games to go here. So a lot of our teams in our top 7 should not be resting on their laurels just yet, especially when you can see teams like Josh and Iamzo jumping up 5 placements, completely disrupting the top of our leaderboard right now. And if I'm thinking about disrupting, you know, I got to think about Shadow and Virgo going down 2 placements. This is one of our top teams that we were looking forward to watch, Vivid, and to see them being this close to maybe not even making it to Dusseldorf, I know I would be just a little bit nervous.
Even with a little bit of a bad game right there, and to be completely honest, their last 2 games have not been up to par with where they would want to be at, so they have been consistently kind of pulling down the leaderboard. But I do know that they did lose one of their members early on, and it was a solo clutch attempt, which is kind of what we were talking about early on. But that being said, they are still kind of having games that are quote unquote, you know, under par, under performance wise, but they're still in that top 7. 186 points, you know, it's pretty close because right now 7th place is 184 points, but still keeping themselves in the competition and in their running to go ahead and qualify.
It's true, man, right? Like, we got 2 games. Anything can happen. Want to highlight Scare and Osid's 2nd place. We get a 2nd place and a 6 elim out of them. Remember, game 2 was a 1st place with 7 eliminations. So I feel like right now they are in such a phenomenal spot. Now, again, the job's not done, right? We do need to make sure we play out these games. We're playing consistently, rather, and we can't make a mistake because, kind of like you called out, Kelly, even down all the way down to 13th place, one good game, like Vivid literally called out at the top of the show, one super good game is 105 points, right? As long as you kind of put all the pieces together. So with 2 more games left to go, though I want to be like, yeah, they're in, it's like the competition is still just too close. It's just way too close, Kelly.
It is too close, but with this upward trajectory that we're seeing from Scare and Osid, I would say out of everyone besides Lian and Jace, they're probably the most confident right now. And honestly, I thought for a moment we were going to be seeing game number 2 again, where we did see Scare and Osid go for high ground. They were kind of sticking to the low ground we know that they like to do, and then taking a late game high ground. And it looked like for a moment they were kind of sticking to the low ground, maybe that they're going to be taking high ground, but they just did not have the mats. And you can tell that they were looking for those refreshes on the low ground, Vivid, but just not able to find them. But even regardless of that, they were still able to pull out such a crazy game. I mean, that is why they are so far up our leaderboard.
Yeah, and I was kind of seeing right there on the leaderboard. One of our teams making a surgence up the leaderboard. What was it? 8, 9 spots. It's going to be Threat and Veer. Definitely needed a performance like that one, right? Such a good game for them. It's going to be a 3rd place with 7 eliminations, keeping themselves in the running there. I mean, listen, this is kind of what we wanted to see out of this duo over the course of the first 3 games. We did kind of mention how some struggles with Storm Surge amongst the 2nd and 3rd games, but it looks like they went ahead and bounced back. And this was a huge game for them. You got to be thinking about it, right? They're now in 8th place, only 22 points behind 7th place. If they can have another game like that, they're definitely going to be in the top 7.
You know, I think right now that there is actually just too many good teams on the low and mid ground, and it is causing a lot of our low ground teams, like Iamzo and Josh, to go for high ground instead. So I'm wondering if people like Threats and Veer, who do such a good job getting a lot of eliminations on the mid and low ground, are actually struggling right now, because majority of these teams are kind of low and mid ground teams, and a lot of them don't have that experience going for high ground, because typically that's our top teams that we see in Div Cup finals, and a lot of them aren't competing here today. So I love to see the changes of Josh and Iamzo, who we know they love to go low ground, but they probably see that there's not a lot of high ground teams in this lobby, so they're going to go for high ground right now, and that might open things up for some more of our low ground teams.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Kelly, it's tough, right? Look at this leaderboard. Look at the up and down placement. So many of these duos flip-flopping, right? I look at Kingling and Craze, right? We know that this is a duo that's trying and working right now for this qualification spot. I mean, even this last game, we had a 12th place with 2 eliminations. You know, again, we're sitting in 5th place, but that job's not done. If we have 2 more games like this, they may not qualify.
That's true. Kingling and Craze had a great start to this. Early aggression allowed them to have storm damage pretty much locked down. But, you know, Vivid, I'm not quite sure what happened in the low and mid ground. It looked like they had some good refreshes. It looked like this was kind of their game to run the mid ground. But unfortunately, it looked like Kingling did go down, or Craze actually went down a little early, and Kingling soon followed.
2nd through 7th, only separated by 45 points. Very, very close. We'll have to see what happens after game number 5.
It's ready, Vivid. It's ready. Jacob, MDF, over to you.
That's right. The gap is starting to widen here, but if you're inside the top 5, I mean, you've almost done it. You just need 2 more big games or 2 decent games, and we'll just have to see who can go ahead and do that with game 5 and 6 here right ahead of us, Jacob.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a huge shout out to Jace. You know, last time I remember seeing Jace, the Reload Elite series with Jargu, they were that close to punching their ticket to another land. But this time around, they get the second chance, they mix things up, and now they have a shot. And for Jace, he has never reached an FNCS finals before, so he can make history on this region. With 2 games left, let's jump into game 5 and see if he can do it.
It's bigger than the finals. It's, of course, the LAN event. Will you be able to punch a flight straight to Germany and fight for your chance at the grand finals? We already saw the new adjustments happen. 8-game finals, more money on the line. It is going to be an incredible weekend. But first, you got to get through the second chance here and now. Zen and Bucky are looking to drop, continue to stick to the game plan here, going for their side. But then you have Bobby and team trying to contest them a little bit closely. I don't think we've seen anyone land right on their exact POI like this before. It's Bobby and Kicks who are looking to get back a little bit of revenge.
And for the first time today, we see a 3rd team landing over here towards Sandy. Zen gets the first knock onto Bobby. Wumpy when he gets kicked, who gets his get back. Now Bucky might be a little bit too late to the party. Finally shows up, but it's even HP. The Siphon comes in for Kicks. He gets the lost HP back. And now with Bucky having no builds, he can't necessarily fight this as safely. Now that 3rd party team, who might be asleep at the wheel as of now, if they wake up, Shockwave over, they could be the last team at Sandy standing.
Yeah, the Siphon mats are definitely going to be the difference. Look at that. Bucky actually finds his elimination there. At least he secures it for a couple points, if nothing else. And look, Bogsy jumps in, actually sees Kicks and tries to chase him down. And little do they know, this is obviously not Bucky, right? So Bucky's out of here, leaves the crime scene like nothing happened. And did he manage to get enough distance is the real question. Looks like Kugo's actually looking for him. So Kugo knows what's going on, and this is a tough one to be in here because Bucky gets hit for whites. He's going to be forced to fight here, but Kugo's got to think about it. Did he go outside? Is he inside? There's still a chest there. He sees Bucky's feet, and they get eliminated.
Oh, that's going to be a big loss for Bucky and Zen. 11th place, 134
Bad.
points. They really need a win in the last game of the day. A certain number of eliminations tacked on top of that. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but definitely gave themselves an uphill battle to go up against. Mason, Noxy, 134 points. They sit on 10th place coming into this game. Roughly 50 points shy that they have to make up in these last 2 games of the day.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really tough. Even for Aiden and Mason here, right? Like, they're in the same position that Bucky and Zen were in. 130-ish points, you know? This is not the time to drop a game at all. You can see even them looking to play super passively right now, so they try to sit back. Keys takes the high ground, though. They kind of hang back. And there goes the call for the disengage now, but Keys wants to continue to push through. Great tags here, still giving him the advantage. It's nothing really that they have to worry about just yet.
Yeah, it's not necessarily impossible for a lot of the teams in this lobby, but for Keys and Diego plays, they need a victory royale. Top 2, maybe 10 eliminations minimum. So far, they got themselves a little bit of an early start, get themselves a loadout before they try to take the fight to Mason and Aiden. And so far, they're not letting them out of their sights. Diego plays, still put pressure on the other side. Keys grabbing the low ground and trying to put pressure and steal that wall away from Aiden. Almost looked like a bad peek from Aiden. He has no extra shields. He's stuck at 110 combined shield and HP. That's 1 shot away from going down. But he's taking this opportunity with a lot of the focus onto Mason. He's lurking around, trying to find an opportunity onto Keys. That one's going to land, but it's not going to be a knockout elimination just yet. So for him and Diego plays, they're just going to go ahead and get out and try to survive for now.
Yeah, and even though they're like a mile away from the finish line, you have to respect it. Like, what else can they do? They literally need to play this like a cash cup. Just run through the lobby and try to earn as much as they physically can and hopefully earn placement points at the back end of it. CDZ Raven, pretty much the same predicament. Not as bad though, but still quite the stretch here.
This is something we've seen over at Four Fields, around Four Fields. This fight for Vibes and Causers. It's been a give and take for a lot of the teams over on this side of the map. This is about how you play out these last 2 days. Quick rotations to get out of a tight spot for Vibes and Causers. They just got to position well to go ahead and start to accumulate that surge. We know it's been like a big focal point of how teams get to play. More surge, more freedom. Low on surge, underneath that threshold, you almost got to attack the first team you see. Slepsies, Magma going against 20 and Chimp underneath. But you got to be careful at the new Sanctuary, this part of the map. Because over towards the north, if you try to rotate on out, there's dips, there's divots, there's a crater where new Sanctuary's added map. And usually there's teams waiting on the other edge of those mountains to try to get some surge.
And no tags found for Help in 20 there, so things are going to slow down for them for now. Back with Yemity. An Avenger here. Maybe have that one nice little solo clutch up, earning themselves a fair bit of points, but haven't really had a chance the last couple rounds to do much here, so teams are struggling here to do something big. And that's with the Wonky Land as well.
I'd say I see somebody in the mini-map and they don't have elimination, so I'm wondering where Electro and Ult is over towards Wonky Land. Maybe one of them possibly got eliminated. Cam and Skittles try to take a Shockwave, a Fizz Shockwave at that. Try to cover distance, get to zone quickly, but that same aspect they try to use as a tool ended up being the reason why Cam took so much damage floating through the sky. Just kind of left them open for all the teams around Sus Studios to try to get damage. But Skittles, while Cam go ahead and heals up, he's just going to be proactive, try to get them a good spot in towards zone so that way they don't have to worry about it later.
Back on over to Curly and Rise here. See, they've already earned themselves 2 eliminations, so they actually win the contested drop here. It's been kind of wishy-washy here at the drop. At one point, they had contestation. Another point, the team opted not to fight them, and then it came back. But here you have it. At least this time, they do find themselves ahead. Now, with 96 points, they are still in the game, but they are also in that position where you need 2 monstrous games to really solidify yourself a comfortable spot inside the top 7. Looking down now, Osid. Scared. Not too sure what they thought they saw down there, but Maybe just breaking the bills so they could throw the loot in.
Still anyone's game here with plenty of time. For some, not so much for others. Eulogy here. He may have lost the plot, but he didn't lose his chance here to make it to the summit land. 80 points, very, very similar to Rise and Curly. Not out of it just yet. Going to need some big games, and it starts with eliminations. This could be a chance for that. Dragon and Creon have one of their own. You see them going right back into the box, picking and choosing. You want the bigs, you want the minis. They have some shockwaves and fizz already, so that's going to go ahead and hold down a couple of their slots in their items. Curly and Rise, you're seeing just a proactivity in this game. Remember, in game 1, there was 91 players aligned around the 4th and 5th zone. This time, we're only in the 3rd, and we're down 276. And I think players are starting to realize, with more than half of the tournament over, there's only one way to qualify for the Summit Land if you're far down the leaderboard. That's with wins, that's with elimination, so you have to play it perfect.
Yeah, it's time to go big or go home here. For Kame and G's there. I mean, they're in a pretty interesting position because they do have 100 points. And you even saw with like Dragon and Creon. They came in last game, they had 0 at the start, and they left that with nearly 90. So anything can still happen for these teams in this kind of triple-digit range. G's Dream just trying to find a chance, but Rise is faster on the draw here, already looking to trade shots. Baits him into it, and they lose the exchange. Curly takes no time, no hesitation here, jumps right in on his team. I think they recognize they have the advantage, probably a little bit more experience. Into the box, Rise goes, and that's going to be a fatal error here. Curly's not there in time, and they actually end up trapping him, and they play the reverse card on him there.
Those are the moments right there for Rise and Curly. Everything was looking so good, Monster. He beams it from across the map. Curly's shockwaves over, but he gets just a little bit too greedy. Thunderburst melted through those builds. Instead of landing damage, they were able to get a clean cut shot onto Rise. You said it yourself. Curly gets trapped out, and now they are down. With the way they stand in the points now, Rise and Curly, they might have a chance, but it's a very, very low probability. They need at least 10, maybe even 15 eliminations with a win in the last game of the day, and that's me being generous as it stands. Might have to do the math after this one is said and done. But if there's any team in the lobby that can potentially do it, maybe we see one of the better IGLs with Curly, one of the newer stars on the scene. It's definitely going to be tough, but for Craze and King, not as tough though, Monster. 190 points. They got 2 games left. I know it's just guesses and estimates, but Vivid said around 250, 260. So they need roughly back-to-back 10th place finishes to get into the finals.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing that can happen, obviously, is for anyone that's like on the bubble, is for these teams that are here kind of comfortably in the top 7 right now, not to push that threshold up any further. With how consistent some of our big name teams are playing right now, it's looking pretty likely, but we've already seen a fair amount of bubble teams fall, so it's really looking like the runway is only getting easier for those at the top to go ahead and push those numbers up.
And if you're a team that's like low on the leaderboard, or maybe you're back in the lobby now, you got to start becoming a fan of Honest Lima, Jace, Scare, and Osid, because those teams that are essentially all but qualified, you want them to get the points instead of your competition for that final spot. As Jan, Stiff, they go down, Causers, and Vibes. We saw them from 4 fields, not running too far away from their drop spot. They do still find their 3rd elimination of the game, and possibly even more so now. Raven and CDZ are in the distance. They're very, very low HP and shield. That could be a clean fight if they notice that.
Jumping with Fear and Louise's perspective, though. With USG Stiff here at the Sus Studios. Another team lurking nearby as well, just listening in, but they're trying to lurk on this machine right here. Simple Fear knows it, though. Kind of aware of the situation. Left camera peek, that's the disadvantage. And he gets eaten up alive there. Before he can even react, now Weezy has to run off. Now I'm thinking that, yep, he's just gonna swallow this as an L here. Not much you can do about it.
Yeah, as soon as your teammate goes down, sometimes you just have to disengage away, especially depending on how much gold you have, knowing maybe in the back of your mind you got to go revisit that same fight. Wee's got to hope he has any bit of HP, whether if it's bandages, med kits, or pizza, because it looks like they are parking the bus and they're going to stay there a little bit. The zone allows them to do that, especially since they have the vending machine in their control. for Threats and Veers, landing at Riptides. Haven't necessarily seen a bunch of the mythic shotgun out of threats in this tournament from Riptides, but Vibes and Causers. Last time we saw them over at Fort Field, they were rotating near CDZ and Raven. Next time we see them here, they get the elimination on the CDZ and Raven.
This is good. They're at 4 eliminations. I mean, at least they're heating up right now, but a little too late here in the tournament run right now. Down goes CDZ. 20 and Help on the other side. One of the teams on the bubble here, looking for a big game to put them in the conversation here for game number 6. So quite some ways to go though, but 35 duos remaining, not too bad. Half in, half out zones revealed itself. Going straight for that zip line here. They have options though. They could go around, they could eat a little bit of storm, up and over.
Not in just yet, though, but I like the way they're approaching this zone. Even though they're not in, they're just getting up to the edge of the mountain. And then now they got 2 things here. Getting information of the teams that are positioned in front, and an opportunity just like this to look back, seeing all the other teams that are going to have to shockwave in as they land a couple of shots, adding just a little bit more to that Storm Surge total. Does look like they're gearing up to make this next rotation possible. King peeks, lands some shot onto Korea, but takes some damage himself, so not climbing up that Storm Surge leaderboard as fast as he would hope. But he's right there next to the zone. Curve already found them a home, so he's just going to try to reunite into the same box. As soon as he gets full HP, that's going to give him a chance to look outside and try to get damage or eliminations onto anybody rotating in late.
I gotta say, you know, King Gray so far playing very, very well, and they again found themselves right past that mid game. Not too much pressure from the Surge here, and you know, all things considering, a little bit of a lighter lobby, right? This is going to be easier to kind of navigate right now as opposed to game number 1. For Threats and Veer, 200 above right now. They found themselves a little bit of a home here too, but they cut off Causers to actually get ahead here, and they're the ones putting that extra pressure back on the Storm.
Threats and Veer were literally right there, honestly. In the grand finals, you know, our 5 teams already kind of qualified. They get 17.
Ooh,
13 spots up for grabs. They get 17. So they have to go here to the second chance. Skittles and Cam, 217 points. Not where you would expect a team that's been playing so well throughout the day. They're 194 below the damage threshold. Not sure who, but somebody quickly finds 30 damage, 163. Early on, it does look like they have enough gold. They can try to out-heal it, but 25 players, Monster, need to go down before Storm Surge no longer affecting this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is quite the strategy. You know, you're kind of sitting here. Yeah, you could buy a bunch of heals. Yeah, you could buy yourself some time, but in the end, you're just going to be one of the last ones to rotate through. You're going to end up taking Storm. It's going to get real sketchy really quickly. Shadow Virgo, though, look at this positioning right here. Very much sitting on some high verticality right now. And this is about the spot they want to be in, right? They kind of fell a little early last game, lost a lot of that momentum, but here and now they're situated better than ever. You have Osin and Scare. Okay, that's quite the duo to fight here. And they're getting closer and closer. I'm curious to know if Osin and Scare actually might be falling below the Surge. They might be feeling some pressures. Or they want to lean over this mountain too, see what they can get kind of involved with. Back over to Cam, Slam, and Skittle. We knew they were going to have a bit of a problem trying to stay that deep in the Storm, and this is exactly what we expected. They came in late. They landed right in the lap of all these other opponents that were there earlier.
Wouldn't say it's the most drastic pull by any means, but it's so close to it. And then he's 400 below the damage threshold. Storm Surge does activate every 7 seconds. 25 damage. He does have 4 splashes. Once had 3 big pots, but already he's starting to dig into his resources. Essentially needs 2 full eliminations here worth of damage. 19 players need to go down before it's no longer a thing. So Skittles right now, he's going to burn through a lot of resources before he starts to make his rotation on over. try to minimize the chances of him actually going down. So instead of just shockwaving on over, trying to cover distance, he sees a mist in play. He's immediately trying to take part of it, mooch off of it, so that way he doesn't have to use as many materials. But you're seeing it being affected around the entire lobby. Jace and Liam below the damage threshold. No extra heals for them. 2 more ticks is all Jace can take. Even less now with the zone coming in. Liam's going to go down. 245 points is where they will stand with 1 game to go.
Almost played this so perfectly, almost had that tournament running. Now Skittle is down, Cam is down, Liam is down. They're all gonna be on the line for the qualification mark, especially when you have players like Iamzo and Josh possibly looking to take to the races right now. They're gonna jump way up and over you, making it that much more closer now. But again, there's still quite some time to go. So now you have to start looking at all the teams that were in the 130s, the 150s that were starting to approach this end game. Players like Kingling and Craze here who are still standing. If they can kind of get over this hump here, it's going to be a little sketchy.
Definitely not going to be easy, though.
Oh, no,
the
lost
amount
Craze.
of damage they've been taking. Yeah, you said it yourself. Craze goes down 214 below the damage threshold. Luckily for King, though, he just needs 4 players to go down and get eliminated for Store Surge no longer to be in this lobby. But he is burning through his heals, and now the zone is forcing him out. Shockwave is there in the sky as he tries to get up the side of that mountain. Luckily for him, not too many players lurk his way, so he's going to be able to stay alive for a couple of extra seconds here. But eventually, he's going to have to get damage unless the Storm Surge does turn off as he uses the last slice of pizza. So no extra heals for King as he tries to make it through the rest of this game.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not about the damage. You just got to drop the player count just a little bit. So any eliminations are definitely going to help him. Meanwhile, Dragon and Creon back from the grave. 6 eliminations now. High ground in their pocket here. They went from 0 points to 84 to now 122 and climbing here fast up the standings. And that is exactly what you don't want if you were in that 200-point range when you fell. Meanwhile, Shadow Virgo, they have once again found themselves in a low ground front side. You know, the difference between this and what we saw from them kind of in the qualification runs, in those heats, is that they haven't really gone on that crazy elimination run. So they could realistically be due right now.
We know they can pop off at a moment's notice. Threats in Veer, trying to go underneath the radar, find an opportunity onto one. The down is in on the Gemini. Threats, though, taking too much damage until he eventually falls once again, leaving Veer as a solo in such a tough situation. They are just outside of the bubble, and Veer goes down on 186 points. They're going to need to go again in the 6th and final game of the day, and they're going to need to clutch up just like Creon and Dragon, but they can't wait to the 6th and final game. They basically have 1 game worth of points here in their totals, so they need a top 3 placing with a few eliminations. Josh Iamzo, they need the bare minimum 233 points so far.
And this is the most soul-crushing spot to fall right here, right when the big placement points are going to start coming in. When you've been alive for like 22 minutes in the game and then you can't get the final stretch going. For Virgo, Shadow, they've just gotten over that hill. Kingling still trying to hold on now, though. Remember, he lost Craze so early on in this rotating. He has just been clawing his way through this endgame, frantically moving layer to layer. Even now, though, puts a couple shots into Virgo and Shadow. They're not going to forget it, so smart on him to move there. They look back somehow. He finds Electro, and then the follow-up, the double siphon. Look at how fast his HP flies back up, and he's right back in it. Finds another solo here. It's Evan hiding under the box. Kingling is playing so well right now.
Not only did he get those eliminations, but he got the placement points because they were full wipes. There goes another chance on to Evan, but he gets cut short. That's going to be a big run for them going into the last and final game of the day. Virgo can kind of feel the pressure as well, but with a chug, an extra slice of pizza, he definitely has the recipe to come back. Top 10 situation here. 4 solos, including him, running rampant in this lobby. Creon and Dragon doesn't want to take part in all the chaos down below, so they have set their position up above. They are not letting go of the pressure unless they run out of ammo.
Ruins in the watch starting to look up to high ground, though, trying to see what they can find. Nothing's up top. Iamzo, Josh, though, still going at it as well. Josh, with the crazy edit right there, finds one, gets the full elimination. Little greedy to try to climb the refresher, and then Virgo comes in from the storm now. Either way, he's got Northern in sights. Northern and Calipper have managed to make another endgame here. They're going to be up in a fight for top 7 here shortly. Iamzo and Josh, though, fighting for first place right now. Northern manages to stay ahead there and hit the shot that he needed. And Dragon and Creon, with no mats, pressure from the high ground, are all of a sudden fighting their way to 200.
Bro, you got Shadow, Virgo still having a shot down below up until then. Ozone inside of the bubble. Northern's trying to give himself a chance, but Creon and Dragon as well. Ozone joins one of two solos along with Northern in this game. Creon's ready to drop down, play Disruptor. They're the only duo up, and they're trying to keep it that way. Ozone gets dunked on. Northern gets taken out. 10 eliminations. Creon and Dragon, playing 2 games out so far, have bursted up those leaderboards.
And you know, you might think it's impossible. Well, look, Creon and Dragon are showing you that nothing is impossible as long as you can lock in and find your footing. 10 elims in a win. We said it, Jacob. He did it. Another 100+ point game to kind of propel themselves on up there. And Zeke, you got to be impressed with that one.
Oh, man. You know, MDF, better late than never, right? Better late than never right now. Double digit BR. It's the time, Kelly. It's the time to do it!
It is the time to do it, especially looking at the games that they had at the start of the day. A 40th, a 41st, and then a 30th as well. They did luckily get a 3rd place game, but then game number 5 is what it is all about, Vivid. And honestly, as far as high ground control goes, this might be the best showing we have seen out of any team today in NAC.
Yeah, absolutely. When they did get that 3rd place, we did see a little bit of high ground life from them in that game as well. So to see them kind of clean it up, run it back one last time to ultimately like make the giant difference. Jacob was kind of calling it up, an absolute surgeons up the leaderboard in terms of how many points they're going to be able to pick up, because before they went into this game, they only had 88 points. So this spells exactly how important this game was for them to go ahead and pop up, because this is ultimately going to put them in striking distance, I would imagine, of top 7. And then Creon just had an absolutely clean up there at the end for the 2-piece to go ahead and secure the win, man. Crazy stuff happening.
Guys, we got one game left, okay? We got one game left to go in the second chance qualifier. I need a break, okay? I need a break. When we come back, we're gonna look at the lobby list, or the leaderboard rather. See, I don't even know where I am right now. We're gonna look at the leaderboard, and we're gonna set this up because we have one game left to go to make something happen if we want to get to the summit. Take a break. We'll see you in 3 minutes. Come right back. See you in a moment. Okay, all right.
Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive. Watch me arrive.
2 teammates have his back. Where's Nash? Gets the drop on the Marius. Stays alive. They're targeting up Vanya. 3 being on.
Got 6 builds? No, max up. Wait, if you're mid play. 100! 100! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! And I don't know how to feel about it.
You're not used to losing. Getting beaten?
Not like this. These players are just So locked in.
Could it be the milk? Stay there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm bouncing back now. Yeah, 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 yeah. I can't hold it back. Yeah, I'm bouncing back. These mountains, I'll toe 'em. Those pebbles, I'll roll 'em. No bridges.
Welcome back, Fortnite fam. The FNCS second chance qualifier. I'm calm. Everything is calm. Everything is as it should be because Josh and Iamzo are in first place with 277 points. I can't believe it. Kelly, it's a great day.
Yeah, it is a great day. My goodness. You just know that people are going to be without you for a few weeks, a few months for the FNCS. So you're trying to give them all the energy right now, Zeke. I really do appreciate that. Also, we're getting a ton of energy from Iamzo and Josh. The first half of the day, you know what? It didn't happen. We didn't see that. Right now, this is the Josh and Iamzo we know and love. And to see them solidifying their spot in the top of our leaderboard makes me so excited to see. And honestly, just once again, them on the low and mid ground, proving to themselves that this is where they are comfortable. I mean, I'm excited to see it, although also proud to see that they went for high ground as well. It's a good day for Iamzo and Josh.
Yeah, we did go ahead and mention we would not be surprised if we saw them up there. You can see they've got 18 eliminations, but I'm more impressed by kind of looking at their stats over here. We did kind of mention a little bit of a slow start to the day, but after game number 5, they actually have the best average placement with a 7.4. So they have actually been playing consistently throughout the day. No surprise, right? We do see them in first place right now, but that's all it takes in a format like this. Just keep playing consistently and you're going to qualify.
You talk about consistency. Let's talk about third place. Golden and Ozone right now. They were on the bubble, Viv. You can see there that up 4 placements. Now we are inside the top 3.
Yep.
This last game of third place, 5 eliminations. They've not had a single game outside of the top 14. That is crazy. Of course, I just want to remind people, job's not done, right? We still want to go into this last game, earn as many points as we want. But to see them now out off of the, back against the wall, now they're just like, okay, we just got to hang on. We do this one more time. We're going to the summit.
And when it comes down to Golden and Ozone, they've actually been doing pretty well. They haven't necessarily had a pop-off game like we've seen from some of our other teams, but they have made it to the end game every single game. 14th around, they're kind of sticking around that where we're entering the end game is typically where they tend to be going down, but still, they're making sure that they're up on the leaderboard and performing when they need to perform best.
Absolutely. Golden Ozone, they are in third place on the leaderboard. As we continue further down the leaderboard, I get a little bit less confident in some of these teams. They're kind of on the bubble. If we do take a look in 5th place, we do see Shadow and Virgo. Right now, they're on 242 points, and 7th place right now is 221. I kind of came into the second chance qualifier mentioning that taking a look at the grand finals days and how those points kind of worked out, I was expecting around 250 to 260 to be that threshold. And as it currently stands, I do think we're going to end in the realm of those numbers. So right now for Shadow and Virgo, 240. Job's not done. Zeke keeps mentioning it. So Shadow and Virgo just got to lock in for game number 6 and keep doing what they've been doing.
Although I will say, I feel like we've seen Virgo solo quite frequently in the end game. And, it's not like it's anything Shadow's doing incorrectly, but just if this is the final game right now, staying box to box, hip to hip, would just do such wonders for them in the leaderboard, making sure that they stay up there. Also, speaking of wonders, Creon and Dragon in the penultimate game, jumping up 13 placements is absolutely ridiculous. We've already talked about them, but when you need these games, when you are able to pull out a 10 elimination victory royale, that is over 100 points that you can pick up for yourself. So even though we're kind of looking at the top 10 right now, we're looking at the top 7 if we're being honest, that can still change, Zeke.
It really can, Kelly. It really can. This last game is vital. I mean, I'm even looking at like Kingling and Craze here, right? Again, just use these little numbers next to their placement. we dropped down a game. In this last game, a 13th place with only 3 eliminations. You know, this is going to come down to this final game. There's a lot of these duos who are trying to keep the FNCS dream alive, to take it all the way to Summit and fight for a title and global championship qualification spots. I mean, this is very tense right now, right? We don't know how this is going to go, and still, even now, it's so close. It's too close to call.
Oh, well, if you want to talk about closeness and you want to talk about craziness, Kingaling, this solo run right now was exactly what they needed, Vivid.
Absolutely, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, usually in formats like this, you're kind of going into game number 5, and some of these teams, they need huge elimination games to kind of catch up to the rest of the competition. So sometimes, like, the amount of players alive in the early game, it kind of dwindles pretty quickly, but game number 5 was still pretty stacked. I'll be interested to see how this kind of shakes things up in game number 6, because you know, as soon as you leave that top 10, you start to enter that territory where some of those teams need 100+ points to kind of catch up to that 260 prediction that we've kind of made. So those teams are going to have to absolutely pop off, and it's going to have to be a win with a lot more than 10 elims for some of these teams.
Oh, no, let's roll over to that second page. I mean, look at some of the names here, right? Bucky in 15th place with Zen, getting surprised, triple contested that last game. Maybe it's still possible, right? I will continue to believe in Bucky and Zen. They can still make something happen. Even 20 and Chimp, right? These are names that we have seen in the past. And I mean, even for someone like 20 who moved to Dallas to try and get better ping and compete and place. I mean, guys, this is it. We have the final game of the second chance qualifier. These duos must make top 7 if they want to go to the Summit for the last time today. MDF, Jacob PR, take it away.
This game has more impacts than a lot of people realize, because that top 7 go ahead and grant you a spot at the Major 1 Summit LAN, which means if you do not qualify here in this last and final game, Monster, you only have the Reload Elite Series left for a couple months.
Yeah, and we've seen crazy things happen in the last game. We've seen players jump up from page 2 to page 1 before, but to ask for someone to get to 7th is going to take a monstrous game. So we'll see who it is going to be.
As it stands right now, that line is 221 points. Everybody above that has a little bit of a cushion, but if you're Creon and Dragon, after 2 games, a first and a third, they've only had one other game where they got points, Monster. That was a 30th place 1 elim, which means they only got 4th, which essentially means in 3 games, they will qualify if they could somehow make up a 28 point gap between them and 7th place.
You gotta pull the rabbit out the hat, pull out the magic tricks, figure it out, keep doing what they're doing right now, and just play consistent. If you're Zen and Bucky, though, you need a victory royale and then some, or at least a huge game with some double-digit elimination. So we need to see that high ground play from Bucky, or the Aussie Antics Hate Watch is gonna come true, and they'll be working together. So we'll see if it ends up becoming that.
I totally forgot when Ozzy would say stuff like that, but hey, one less team for them to worry about. I do believe it was Bobby and Kix was the originators kind of contesting Sandy Strip this time around. They kind of chose to drop elsewhere. We still got Kugo and Fozzy there in the side, and I think Bucky and Zen probably realize 138 points. They need about, I think, 90 points just to tie what it's currently at now. So they're one of those teams, they probably need well over 10 eliminations and a victory royale if they're looking to make the Major 1 Summit LAN. And there's anything I know about Bucky and Zen, though, they will go down swinging.
Yeah, give or take is going to be 100+ points. They need a 100+ point game. I mean, we saw the stat coming into this. 105 was roughly like the biggest game we've seen kind of over the course of the weekend. I do think we have seen something better with Dragon and Creon. You know, don't count me on that one. Don't hold me to that. But they got really close. They had some huge games. So it is all, of course, possible. Here it is, though. Bucky, Zen playing exactly how we need them to. Very good keying right here. Very great aggression. They actually get the knock here onto Fogs. Here's the finish. I don't know where the teammate's at, but either way, they need to clear out the strip, move fast, and continue to get into more action.
That was a lot of confidence, too, coming out of Bucky, is even though he had Zen backing him up, who had a Chaos Reloader, Bucky just had the gold pistol, was literally shockwaving after him, knowing that, hey, I have damage. If just one of these shots bleed through, they can get the elimination, which they did. But now it's just a matter, do you loot up? Do you try to find the solo? But I do think they're going to try to go for the first of the two. I think they're going to loot up, try to get themselves the loadout, and then just try to crash on the rest of the lobby and get those eliminations. 20 and Chimp here, 164 points. They're not as far down the leaderboard as we're talking Bucky and Zen are, so they have a little bit more flexibility in terms of their game plan.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the overall points of that duo top with Help in 20 here, and I'm just thinking, like, you know, we've seen things happen where teams definitely have their one round when they don't quite earn as much as they can. These are teams that obviously are on the bubble. However, if they end up being one of the ones that actually pop off and finally fight their way towards a victory royale, it's a whole different story that's going to push people out and down on the standings, making it much more competitive for others. Curve or Craze and King here. I'm watching things from down low. They're probably going to be looking to jump on a rig here to the left. Kingling boxed up. Do they might actually know he's there. Yeah, they definitely know he's there. Won't stop him, though, from diving onto Rix, who doesn't have a cover over top.
Both of them essentially just one shockwave away from getting jumped on. More so Rick than Traps, but Traps has a clear bird's eye view. If he can just land some shots, he'll be well off, but Rick probably sees this play coming. Saw Craze at the tail end. He goes one box up, tries to build a metal to make it a little bit more safe, and quickly opens up to Shockwave on out. Monster, you were right. You saw that one coming from 3 miles away, the Shockwave play, but on the other side of the map, Magma and 20 go head-to-head. 20 gets the knock on to Magma. Finally is able to clean that one up, but has to wait for the shotgun to reload. Luckily for him, Chimp is there to help. Reunites into the same box. Minis are coming out, splashes for the HP. So I like how they slowed it down as soon as they got that one elimination. 168 points. They still have a little bit of an uphill battle, but they're slowly chipping away at that lead.
Yeah, this is really good. I mean, played it smart, found the elimination, got the knock. Kind of curious as to why Sleepster would even stick around at this point. This is increasingly risky for him, but what does he have to lose? Probably pretty far off as far as overall qualification goes. So for 20 and Chip, they got to be more careful than anything else. This is someone who's got nothing to lose, and they have everything to gain here. So, and actually, now that I think about it, that's going to be the bulk of the lobby. Like, look, we're already 78 players. This is the fastest kind of dwindling lobby we've had so far, and makes sense as to why. Players are just going to be clocking out right now. So this is probably the riskiest game if you're someone who's in the kind of qualification bubble here.
Yeah, and you can kind of understand why they're getting so aggressive. This is the last, or it's the second chance here to get to that summit land. Yeah, you might start in the lower bracket, but at least you're going to Germany. There's a big elim there from 20, their second one of this game so far, but the action's not slowing down just yet. Daxathon and his teammate are now in sight, and they're trying to crash this third party. Probably hearing the noise, hearing the shields crack onto Chimp, and they realize this fight was probably likely prolonged, so there's not really a lot of materials on the other side, but you see they're taking their time. They're just trying to play for this piece control, dwindle down the options that they have, and that's where they're going to find success. Chimp is going to be the first one knocked. 20, though, answers back with elimination of his own, bringing it down to a 1v1, but the Siphon's slow to react, so there is going to be a huge HP and shield advantage if he can attack while the iron's hot.
And Karina's got the big advantage here, though. The Flowberry missed, the quick chug splashes as well, so 20's got to buy time here, somehow stretch this out, find a monster shot, but no, it's Karina who ends up hitting it instead. And just like that, one of our bubble teams are now out of the race. Meanwhile, looking at the feed, Jace and Liam are in a fight of their own. Elimination starting to fly here. It's up to Jace versus Mason. So Jace has got one. Actually, they got 3 already. And now he's in a one-on-one clutch-up position right now to go to land here. Last game, they earned 0 points. This game, 3 elims might be enough to at least be the line for top 7, but you don't want to leave it down to that.
Mason's literal tournament life here on the line. the next couple of months, whether he gets to play out for the Summit Land or not, is really here. Jace all but has his spot secured, 257 points.
It's the
A
line.
little estimate going around. That is definitely the line. Going down here could literally cost him everything. But it really all depends on who else is in that final end game collecting those points. And this is where, if you're below that point threshold, you kind of want someone like Jason Liam to go down. But if you're above it, you almost want them to stay in the game to rob the points away from all the other contenders. So Jay's doing a good job staying alive, essentially trying to fight for first place. They're at 245 to start this game. Josh and Iamzo at 277. So even though they might have their qualification spot secured, you know how bragging rights and how much confidence goes along with that.
Definitely. I want to give credit to the replay team there as well. You saw how close it was. He was actually in a 2v1. He was lurking. He finds the Elim to kind of keep his run alive. It is getting competitive. It is very close. Skiddo and Cam Slam also still need that final push here now. Can they get the boulder to continue to roll down the mountain? Northern Clipper. We saw them in that end game last round, making big performances so far. Big placement points being earned. Kind of like a Dragon and Creon-esque run right now. They've just been popping off here, but they're going to need a win potentially here too.
152 points. Kind of see the leaderboard, 12th place down, 14th place down. A couple contenders on the heels of Northern and Caliper. You're talking about how they're kind of mimicking Dragon and Creon. They got a 7th place, they got a 7th place, and they got a 2nd place in that last game. So for Northern and Creon, they're definitely on the right trajectory, along with King and Craze here. 6th place coming into this game, 228 points so far. They have a 7-point cushion before they are the line, as HCube Encrypted look to get aggressive here. And they're in 14th place, 138 points to start the day. So you can see why they may be looking to get aggressive. These 8 points here on King and Craze are looking so good for HCube and Encrypted. It's almost a necessity for where they're at on the leaderboard. Early damage though, Storm Surge, no matter what happens here, will play a role for either one of these two teams.
Yeah, what a story it would be for Craze, who obviously played with Bugha all season, ends up dropping him, figures out his qualification, and then tries to fight his way towards the land. Still, he has to win this fight, has to get a little bit more. Both sides drop punishing shots on one another. HQ forced to back off. Craze forced to fight this by himself here. Try to delay the heals for as long as possible, but you can't take any punishing shots. Momentum can turn at any time right now, and they're far from the Zorm right now. You can see the marker. Look at how deep in the distance it is to get to the safety. Have quite some meters to go here. They're feeling it too. They're just going to go ahead and give this one up. Actually, not as far as it probably looked there. It's just off the distance here.
And there's a little spot here with the low grab that King is walking up to where it does spawn basically infinite heals. It's just a matter of if they were grabbed yet or not. So I do like the decision to disengage first, beat them to the punch, so not only get priority on the next rotation, but you can kind of gobble up whatever heals are left by, so that way you don't have to dig deep into your bag of tricks and use what you want to bring into the end game with you. As we jump aboard Ozone and Golden, 3rd place coming into this game, 256 points. They essentially need to do the bare minimum. They can't have a 0-point game, but maybe a couple of eliminations, maybe a top 20. They all but have their spot secured here, along with Jace and Liam. 257 points, still rotating in from the new Sanctuary. Gonna go ahead and hit a mending machine. If you kind of look at Jace, he has what looks like infinite gold. No, he doesn't actually have infinite gold. Usually when it makes that symbol, it means they have over 8,000. As you see Liam with the 975. So they have a plethora of gold and many options to choose from about how they want to rotate out of this location while using that mending machine.
Yeah, Liam, Jace, they just got to push the needle a little bit further, and they'll be right on in there. Nice and cushioned. Craze and Kingaling, these eliminations are starting to add up now. They're starting to get that
elimination
that
there
point.
onto Taki. Him and Vert, they get their run cut short here today. Trying to see where they actually land. Taki and Vert came into this game in 16th place, 138 points. They're one of 3 teams actually tied at 138 points. They get that first knock onto Vert and essentially use their numbers to cut down Taki next, ending a run, increasing their position on the leaderboard, closing that gap between them and Shadow and Virgo in 5th place as we jump on board Dragon and Creon, consistently jumping around teams both in and outside of the bubble. Creon and Dragon essentially got the majority of their points in just 2 games. Monster is the team that you kind of looking at a 3rd place with 8 elims and a 1st place with 10 eliminations.
Yeah, so close. And that live leaderboard right there to really give you guys the picture, right? Threats and Veer are also hot on their heels. Sin the Watch and Ruins, a team that we saw get into quite a few skirmishes, seem to be right in the conversation as well. And this is good for them, right? Because those other teams that were kind of trailing behind them, a good bulk of them have now fallen.
Skittles and Cam, 0-point game last game. Unfortunate circumstances, or close to a 0-point game. They did get 1 elimination, so 4 points for their efforts, but it was 17 minutes they were in that game just to get 4 points. So really gonna have to make up for it here as we jump aboard King. I'm not sure, was it elimination or was it just a whole treasure trove down below? They have 3 different chugs now. 200, all full on both of those. Another shot is going to be landed onto Kaki. Pressure coming out from Craze as well to not let him get the chase onto King. And now they're just going to go ahead and try to make their way in towards the zone. So a huge elimination, not just for the points, but more so the loot they've been able to find.
Yeah, look, it was actually onto Vaults. Oh my gosh, they lace him up before he can even get off the ramp. And that's how they find all that loot. And then think about it, the way that just played out, that's why he had so much heals right there. The chug jug, the extra splashes. I mean, just abundance of extra heals now to take to the zone.
Uh-oh. I saw on the feed, I don't know if it was Josh, Yamzo, maybe both of them. They got a knock on to Shadow. Basically, if Virgo was still alive, that's a lot of pressure. They got 242 points, so they built themselves quite a cushion in this game, but 242, that's below the average of both NA and EU top 7s for the past weekend, so it's going to be tough to see if they got what it takes to stay inside of that bubble. You see them at 242 points, 5th place. Josh Niamzo, 1st place, 277. So even though they got nothing to lose and everything to gain, they are literally going to crush everyone's dreams in the name of Shadow and Virgo. You see Virgo now left by himself, 250 points, so 2 eliminations. So they're able to get a little bit more points in this game and some damage for Storm Surge before Shadow eventually went down.
I mean, he has a bunch of damage right now, though, so this is actually really good, right? The fact that he's able to retain that damage here and stay competitive on the overall damage leaderboards, and he still has a few overdrives, so I think he can definitely keep a low profile, but this is all up to him if they go to land or not right now.
Yep, 250 points, and that's a point threshold where you think, this has got to be safe, right? So hopefully they did their homework and be able to hang on. 2 teams going down, which means Virgo will start to gain placement points with each and every other team that does fall. Yep, OSID and Scare have went down. They have 271 points. OSID and Scare were the 2nd place team coming into this game. You gotta hope, you know, the point threshold kind of stands in a lot of our guesses, and it doesn't go above that line, because, well, that would be a nightmare having to watch.
Well, all I'm thinking about is 270 might be safe for them, but that just means the point absorption is not going to the top. So it's going to bring all these guys that are in 7th to 10th way more opportunity, right, to earn points. So the line might just really become even more competitive. If you're a Craze, if you're a Kingling like this, you cannot afford now to fall.
And honestly, that's got to be true with some of the top teams going down, being left as solos, as you see Golden here. If they go down, let's just say, you know, top 20, top 15, that just means teams outside of the bubble are going to get an opportunity to get more points than they normally would. So we could see, in theory, an increased threshold. But for Golden, he's hoping to bat himself just a little bit more points, 264 and counting, 700 plus damage above the threshold. And already we're in our top 22 teams. So with every team that gets eliminated out of this lobby, more and more points will be collected by someone like Golden, who's stuck by himself, even having to rotate into a whole nother team of Yemeni and Bender, who are still kind of clutched in their own spot.
Creon and Dragon still in this game as well. Kingling and Craze still in this game here too. They continue to earn points here. They're just fighting, though. I love the aggression that we're seeing come out of them. But G Monster finds Cam Slam there, gets the full finish. Threats falls in the B2. There is a lot of action right now happening with teams that are very much in the race here. As Cam Slam is out the lobby, Skittles left to play this one out by himself. And this is where the bulk of the points are left to be made. So even for Veer now, no teammate here has to do something absolutely massive. We're talking top 10, maybe top 5 if they want to push someone off of the qualification range.
I feel like, and I could be wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong, I feel like out of all the teams inside of our top 7, we have 2 of them actually alive as duos. Everybody else is either eliminated out of this game, forced to watch on the sidelines, or just like Skittles, stuck as a solo here. Luckily for him, he does have a couple extra pizzas, couple extra splashes in the back pocket. He's going to let the zone overtake him, so that way he gets more effective use out of the shockwave, able to cover just a little bit more distance instead of having to position towards the front, wait for it to open up. Now he's going to give that opportunity a chance here. Still more zone to open up, but for Skittles, he's just looking for any solos to take down, any opportunities to take advantage of.
There's still like 50 points worth of placement available here, so you really have to stay in the running right now. Skittles gets laced up, though. Big shots there. Someone's in the box, and down he goes. 235. He is frozen on the standings now, and someone like Veer is still left in the race here. He's got plenty of heals, too, taking his time here on the backside of Storm. And this is what we talked about. No one is safe until you make it all the way through to the very end, and that leaderboard loads up. For Veer now, 212. Look how fast the points are jumping up. We just watched him jump 10 points in a matter of seconds. All he has to do is stay alive.
Yep, waiting for anybody to go down. And every elimination he gets on players, that's 4 more points. If he eliminates a team, that's elimination points plus placement. So a lot on the shoulders of Veer here. Moments ago, we saw Jason Liam work together to take down another team in the hunt of that Dragon 7 spot. Dragon's trying to do what he can, and they're trying to fizz. Could this be another opportunity for Dragon and Creon to go for high ground? Right now, Batman Nick and Skinny Cat are up above, but no, they're just going to take a plain shockwave. They're just trying to get to the front. Just like everybody else in this game, they're scared to go for high ground because they know how chaotic it can be.
Too many good POVs to watch. Golden also in this game. He surely has done enough. 278. Big chilling right now as he's working his way through low ground here. 15 teams in the game right now. Still plenty of placement points to be earned. Meanwhile, Veer falls. Golden falls to the hands of Jace here, who's at 291. They're making a run for first now. Just go ahead and close the tournament out. Meanwhile, you have Dragon back in the game. The Siphon to keep him alive. Picks up 2 pizzas here. He's at 233. He's on the way to push another player out. Can he get the next elimination?
1 tick of HP before going down. The Siphon literally threading the needle. That's a photo finish if I've ever seen one, but Dragon goes down. I'm not sure where the line is at this point. He's got so much chaos ensuing. Liam by himself. Josh Yamzo still alive. King and Craze up as well. Almost everybody is trying to clutch their spot at 299. Liam and Jace, you got to imagine they have done it. King and Craze as well. 292 and counting. They open up that one. Take a bad peek. One of them goes down. Yamzo and Josh are in it as well, trying to crush Dreams because they already got their spot secured. Craze has been eliminated out of this game, but King is still running rampant in this lobby.
You gotta love it. 8 eliminations for them. Another way to just put the cherry on top here. Yamzo still doing work here on the low ground. Into the storm he goes. Plenty of extra heals. Shots from up top. And then back to meet here. And look at that. He didn't even realize it was a player under the cone in the box that he was in. That's how chaotic this game has been. Yamzo is well on his way to be the most overwhelmingly performing team here on the weekend. Meanwhile, on high ground, you have Yuz and Sharkman still fighting it through to the very end. You got to respect it.
Yep. Right now, 148 points. This is going to be a 2v2, so you get 9 more for the win, 8 more for the elimination. On the bottom, not sure where they stand, but Zypta lost the plot. They're going to be up above, trying to go ahead and win this last and final game of the day. Kind of looks like he's just trying to move out towards the side. 1v2 situation here. A lot of pressure on him, trying to perform. He gets dropped down to the box, eliminated. 1 of 2 solos will go down. Yuz and Sharkman creeping around, trying to lurk and get this final elimination. Again, the point differential here is 13 points for Zypta. He's going to go up above. Shockwave onto the high ground. 162 points. He has no choice but to fall. No more builds really to protect himself. Tries to go for a side shot. One's going to connect onto Yuz. He goes right back into the zone to seal that deal. Yuz and Sharkman will end the day on top.
Yeah, definitely still a good game there for them at the end. They fought very, very tough all the way through to the end. They earned themselves quite a fair bit amount of points, but in the end, only top 7 Jacob will be able to go to Germany. So from us here, that's going to be Raps, brother. Game 6 is over. The pop-up broadcast is through, and Zeke, it's up to you to show us who's going to Germany.
MDF. It's stressful. It's stressful. First off, thank you both. Awesome cast on the day. Man, shout outs to Sharkman, Yuz, getting themselves a victory royale in game number 6. But as the casters called out, it's only the top 7 that can make it through to Dusseldorf. Do want to congratulate these guys, though, on that W. Getting a W in this situation is still impressive.
Oh, 100%, especially with some of the big names that we had competing here today. To be able to control high ground and win this final game, it's definitely going to be feeling good going into, like, major number 2. Hopefully we see Sharkman and Yuz, grab a good learning experience from this. I don't know if they got enough points to be able to get into our top 7 just because of how contentious the top of our leaderboard was, but they should definitely feel good and hopefully take this momentum into the following Div Cups and events we have coming up.
Absolutely. And honestly, them playing that one out, even though they were, really far-fetched from being able to go ahead and get into the top 7, that could have big implications on some of the teams that could have secured those points, right, Zeke?
Why would you throw it to me right away? Why would you do that, Pivot? That means we have to look at the standings. Oh, okay. Here we go. Don't forget, top 7 is where we need to end right now. Skittler, Cam Slam, just barely by the skin of their teeth, 2 points. Push Creon and Dragon out, and keep in mind as well, earlier on, they got themselves a victory royale, but in this last game, only a 12th place and 3 eliminations, not enough. So Skidler and Cam Slam will be moving on through. But even take a look at some of the other names up there as well. Obviously, we knew Josh and Yamzo.
We knew.
I mean, slow to start, Kelly, but man, they really picked it up in the second half.
No. They understand that half of esports is all about the story. So how can you have Josh and Iamzo we already had 3 victory royales over in EU, right? So they had to make their own story. They wanted everyone to feel the tension, the suspense. Oh, who's going to be on top? Of course, it's going to be Josh and Iamzo with almost a 50-point lead over second place. But big shout outs to Liam and Jace. They played so well today, especially being one of the newer teams we got to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. As a quick reminder, Jace has never made an FNCS Grand Finals before and is now going to land. Crazy storylines there. We talked about Kingaling and Craze coming in. New duo formed for the second chance qualifier. They're going to be in 3rd place there. They were kind of teetering on that threshold going into the last game. They went ahead. They clutched it up.
And he was doing such a good job just staying alive on that low and mid ground. And honestly, I know that we're talking about game 6 right now, but that game 5 solo clutch from Kingaling where he was just moving all the way around, that honestly might have been the clutch factor for their tournament today. But also having a decent game for game number 6 is what held them up in our top 7. So excited to see Craze and Kingaling go and compete in Dusseldorf. Hopefully that first day of the lower qualifiers will be a little bit easier for them, but to see them and how they competed today, I can imagine we can see a good showing out of them.
Absolutely.
Another duo, Viv. I'm gonna say their name. I know you're
want to.
Okay. You go.
Shadow and Virgo.
Yeah!
I was nervous watching this game. 19th place with 2 eliminations. But their other 5 games were kind of enough to go ahead and carry them through. They end up 6th place on the day, and they are, of course, going to the summit. And yeah, 264, we were kind of talking about it, or I was kind of talking about it, right? Expected to be around 260. 7th place ended up being 235. So Vivid Analytics is officially retired.
Also, we were talking about Shadow and Virgo. I think I'm about to be fired too, because we were talking about how elimination heavy they were in the open qualifiers, and we're like, oh, they're going to be doing really well. They have the lowest amount of eliminations out of anyone in our top 9, and actually we're very placement heavy in that tournament. So we're both fire Vivid. It's okay. We'll see everyone in Dusseldorf.
Wow. Why don't we take a look at a list of the qualified players who are now have made it through to this summit. A big congratulations to all of the duos, of course. I know this was a very difficult competition, but here is a look at more of those names from all over the place. We're still wrapping up, obviously, Brazil, and then NA West will come after this, but starting to get more, a more complete picture, as I like to say, to kind of get a little bit of a little tease, right, Kelly? Kind of going into now an additional days format. I mean, a lot of big names are already there, right? These names are getting added to that list, so it's gonna be crazy. I'm gonna keep saying it. I'm always gonna say it. I'm hyped for LAN.
Not
I'm
be
hyped.
what you say. Can you say it in a different way? You know what? But what is there to say when you're looking at all of these names right here? This might as well be the global championships. I see, just so many big names from every region. It's typically what we see in the global championships. So Vivid, the fact that we get 2 of these this year is pretty dang amazing.
Yes, exactly. Very, very excited. Of course, all of the duos that we did see qualify through the second chance qualifier will be playing for the first time on Saturday in that lower bracket. It's only one opportunity for them, whereas everybody that qualified through grand finals will have the opportunity to play on Friday to qualify to finals. And then if they do not on Friday, they will go to Saturday as well. So a little bit of a disadvantage for anybody qualifying through today, but still going to Dusseldorf.
Dude, they still made it. They still made it, right? What a big opportunity for all of these duos, of course. Guys, as we begin to say goodbye, final thoughts on the second chance qualifier.
Hey, maybe we should give more second chances to people. We had some incredible teams make their way through that we were very sad to not see make their way in Major 1. So I love to see it. And maybe this will be a permanent addition in future majors.
This is crazy. What was this, like 11 days where we went through heats, a last chance qualifier to finals, we went through grand finals, and then a second chance qualifier. So we have been absolutely spoiled over here, man. The competition has been crazy. We'll get the wind down for a little bit before we head off to Germany, but man, what a day, what a week plus a couple of days this has been.
Woo! Fortnite, bam! Okay, this time we're actually not going to see you again until Dusseldorf. I said that last time, but this time it's like actually.
He's lying. Don't listen to him.
Before we say goodbye, don't forget all of the information about the summit. It's now a 3-day event. If you have a 2-day ticket, it's automatically going to be converted to a 3-day ticket. Don't even worry about it. For the duos at play, an extra day, upper or lower bracket, like Vivid called out, $300,000 up on the line, and of course, qualification spots for the Global Championship. It's going to be wild. Tickets are still available. So if you want to come hang out with us in Dusseldorf, watch some incredible Fortnite, lose our minds, our voices, come do that. We'd love to have you. With that being said, this time for real, the next time we'll see you is in Dusseldorf. So Fortnite fam, until then, we love you. Keep yourself safe. We'll see you on that battle bus.
Beep, beep.